In the scene, Rick. Otherwise, it's not going to record anything. Hi, welcome to the Drunk Tank episode 5. How is everybody doing today? I am one of the co-hosts of the show, Dox Ryan, and as you see, Chris over there. Tonight, we got to talk about a lot of shit, and we're going to get into some very touchy subjects. We're going to try and talk about them as unbiased as possible while acknowledging our own biases. And as always, this is our opinion. And if you find our opinions offensive or upsetting, there's not much I can do about it because it's my opinion. And we're two guys, and we're going to be talking about our experiences and offering some constructive criticism on some of the topics tonight. So wanted to get that disclaimer out before we start the show. Once we hit those topics, we will do another disclaimer kind of divulging our biases and our thoughts before we dive into it. That being said, let's get to the opening round. But before we get to the opening round, I forgot last week, and the lawyers are in the corner giving me the mean mugging face. Chris and I are of legal drinking age. We will be drinking some beer during the show. If you are going to join us while you're listening or while you're watching the video on YouTube, because we're not currently streaming on Twitch, because of technical reasons still persisting, make sure you are of legal age to drink and you do drink responsibly. That being said, welcome to the opening round. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
It's been it was a good weekend that ended sourly. That's what I'm gonna say.
Well, at least you had some form of goodness since the last 2 or 3 weeks. So
Yeah, the week went well. Like, I got a lot done. I got a lot of updating done for when the new rig comes in. The weekend was really phenomenal, and it ended on a sour note. But other than that, it's been really good. So as per the usual, what are you drinking tonight, buddy?
I am drinking Feldschlossen,
Which
I probably butchered, but it is a very nice beer from Dresden in Germany. It's one that I picked up in my pickup 6 while I was down in England, and it is actually quite. It's not your craft beer. It's a mass-produced beer, unfortunately, which I discovered sadly.
You're slumming now with a mass-produced beer.
Yeah,
How dare you?
It's not as good as the king of beers, Budweiser, which is probably the best beer you can ever have.
Don't do that. Don't do that. You're starting some shit tonight. You're in a fight. You're starting. Don't do that.
There was this podcast that I was listening to a couple of weeks ago when I'd taken the day off, and they were discussing beers and how Budweisers and Millers and stuff like that are crap when they're actually quite good.
Don't go there. You're gonna start a fight. I'm gonna jump on a plane, kick your ass, jump back on a plane, do the show later. Don't start that. Don't go there. So, go ahead, continue about your beer.
Yeah, no, it's a nice beer. It's from German. It's a German beer. It's called. I think it's pronounced Feldschlossen.
Feldschlossen.
But the links will be in the podcast on Spotify, Google, and stuff like that, and it'll be on the YouTube description. It is actually quite nice. I got it for pretty much about £1.50, which is a pretty decent price for what is it? 50 cl.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's a pretty decent price for a bottle like that. So yeah, no, it's quite tasty. It's that, but again, it's a bit boring. If I'm being honest, it's a beer that you would get if
you're slumming. You're slumming.
It's your late night beer. See, when you've already had quite a few and you're ready to just kick back, fall down the stairs a couple of times. It's that kind of beer. The beer where it doesn't matter what it tastes like as long as it's cheap.
Exactly.
I just want to point out, in case the Feldschlossen brewers are watching, isn't a bad thing. These kind of beers are necessary in everyday life.
Facts.
You are the gatekeeper of a night out. So it's a high regard, but it's quite boring.
Wow, you are on your wooing game. They Feldschlossen, hint, wink, wink, throw that man some money with that review. Wow. The gatekeeper of beer, huh? Ooh, wow. I don't know if I can follow that shit up. Ooh, that's high praise. I'll say you redeemed yourself from the Budweiser comment. All right, we about to fight about that. But you pulled it back. You pulled it back. I'm back in your corner. I'm riding with you on that one. Me tonight. I'm drinking what they call Outboard. It's a cream ale from the Milwaukee Brewing Company. It's a local microbrew here in town, or here in the state town. I'm like 40 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a cream ale before, and from what I read, just like, I mean, it's got a nice golden urine color with a little bit of head on there, which I'm okay with, but it smells like any craft pilsner to me. I don't really get the cream or like the sweetness of corn that they say is in here. It just tastes like a upscale version of Budweiser.
Yeah, well, we're doing well this week for our opening.
I mean, for me, like you get a 6-pack probably like $7-8. This is probably the cheapest beer that I've had, and again, that's not a bad thing. It's definitely not Budweiser. It's better than that, but this is probably the most affordable of the 6-pack that I got because it's like $7-8, where the other ones are 9 or 10, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's not bad. It's not boring. It's just not distinct enough where like, oh yeah, I'll drink this again. Like, I'll drink it if it's there. Like, I'll drink it over Budweiser any day. It's good flavor, good head, good hops. But it's unlike the pomegranate beer I had a couple weeks ago. There's nothing that stands out about it, or the Avalanche that I had from Colorado. That's a little more hoppy, a little more malty. So this is just more of like, this is like a fishing guy's beer. Let's put it like that. Like, even the name Outboard, it's like guys on a boat catching bass drinking this beer. Like, this is what it reminds me of, is like something my uncle like would have drank when he was fishing. It's just it's a little bit upscale Budweiser.
It just sounds like your kind of go-to beer. Like, it's like your everyday beer as opposed to the special occasion beer.
Yeah, it's like an everyman's drinker. Yeah, like if they don't want a Budweiser, they want something a little more with a little bit more of a flavor profile than like a Budweiser or a Miller. Yeah, it's a journeyman's beer. It's an everyman's beer, and I like it. It's good, but it's not one that would be in my regular rotation. Like, I'm definitely gonna get more of that pomegranate beer. Avalanche is always in my rotation, and then that second beer, that stout or whatever I had a couple weeks ago, that was really, really good.
Oh yeah.
So that hard root beer too has a more distinct flavor than this does, but it's not bad. It's actually quite good. I mean, I know I bagged on it, but like, I don't know if my snobbery is coming in, but it's fine. It's fine. It's like it's white bread. Let's put it that way.
All right, yeah, that's probably a better. Again, white bread is necessary. They are necessary in a lot of things. So
you're not wrong. You're not wrong, man. But yeah, my week went well. The ending kind of sucked, and I'm glad your week was kind of good. For those of you that are listening to the podcast or watching it on YouTube, normally we stream it on Twitch. So a lot of the chat interaction or community interaction we don't have. The computer is in the process of getting put together. We're just waiting on the GPU. So hopefully in the next week or two, we'll be able to do this show live and have some live interaction with the Twitch community. But that being said, if you want to provide your feedback or ask us questions or suggest topics, get at us on Twitter, get at us on the YouTube comments, on, I don't know if you can get messages on Spotify. I don't know if you can do that, but yeah, Twitter, send us a whisper on Twitch or leave a message in the YouTube comments. That's the best way right now you can join the conversation, or even if you have beer suggestions, if you got a drink. Eventually, I might mix it up and do like a cocktail for one of these. Because I used to be a bartender, I might just throw down on like a Manhattan or something, just to kind of give.
I was actually thinking about that as well. I was sitting thinking, like, we were doing the review kind of stuff in that, and As much as the review is quite nice and it's a nice bit of information in that, my first initial idea was basically just getting yourself a drink, not necessarily into a review stage, but
Right.
just what you're enjoying. Because like the other night there, I was sitting there going, "Do you know what? I could go on Monday, a whiskey sour." Like I
Yeah.
don't know why, but see,
Yeah.
just a whiskey sour would have hit the spot the night. But I would need to go and get the stuff for it. I mean, I've got all my whiskey up there, but
Now here's the question though. Seeing as how we're diverging on this path, what is your go-to whiskey sour recipe? Like,
whatever the barman makes me.
really, you just kind of you do that. You don't have like one that you don't
No,
kind of throw down on it.
it's one of the ones I tend to use it as an excuse to try and extend my palate.
Okay.
As a kind of like, I like to just, for me, a bartender's got the skill to
Mm,
know, and I would rather use like a whiskey sour or any kind of cocktail as a kind of canvas for the bartender to show his skill. Like if the bartender gave me a shitty drink, he's a shitty bartender.
facts.
But if he gave me a drink that was enjoyable, he's a good bartender. But if I'm going in and telling them, that's like me walking up to Van Gogh and going, "See how you done that? I don't like that. So do you think you can maybe do it this way?" Even though I have no fucking clue. So I'm quite an avid let the bartender kind of thing. I mean, if I don't like the drink, I don't like the drink. I
Yeah.
won't order that one again. But I mean, especially in Glasgow, every second building's a bar. There's
Yeah.
full streets just lined with bars and clubs that everybody goes to on your Saturday and Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, here in the town
um,
I live in, there's a bar in every corner and a church across the street. So I feel you.
yeah, so it's like I'm quite happy to kind of just dot about, try different places, see, because it's the same with a restaurant. If I go into a new restaurant, um, I would always get the steak
Hmm.
just to see because, in my opinion, as a trained chef, in my opinion, if a chef can't cook a steak, that's like base level standard. If you cannot cook a steak, what the fuck are you doing in that
Yeah,
kitchen?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just my standard. I mean, that is the how everything should go. But it's between steak and scrambled eggs. If you cannot make either of them, then questions have to be asked. Um, so that's just the same kind of way that I see as a bartender. But I have that kind of with a lot of things. Like if I try a new Chinese restaurant, I always seem to have to get their cream of sweet corn soup.
Really?
Just as a kind of, I don't know why it started. It's just most Chinese restaurants here do that. That's like
We
you have
don't
your
have
chicken
that.
noodle, you have your chicken and sweet corn, you have your chicken and mushroom, then you have like your wonton soup.
No, we don't
So
have
it
that.
was like, oh, interesting.
I didn't
But
mean
I
to
have
cut you
seen
off.
like the cuisines are quite different anyway. But because we are a lot more Chinese as opposed to like Indian and pizza and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like I mean, I had this sort of debate with my American friend in which when we order a pizza, we order the pizza from an Indian restaurant because you get better pizzas. Like the
What?
pizza restaurants and the Italian restaurants suck at pizzas. Like
So they're coming
whereas
for pitchforks for us this week, man. We got this debate and then a topic later. We're fucked.
but I will say Italian restaurants are good for the pasta. You are the gatekeeper of pasta.
The
but
running theme, folks. Get used to it.
but Indian restaurants always seem to do the best pizza. Like there's a Indian restaurant maybe 5-10 minutes down the road,
Hmm.
and they pack that pizza with your fucking child if you ask them to. But it's like they just everything at you, and it's this thick, cheesy, bubbly goodness,
Right.
and it's big 16-inch. But
That's what she said.
yeah, back onto the topic. Well, quite a few times to me. But
It's a good night. We in a mood tonight. It's gonna be a good show.
but with the likes of like, I just have depending on what I'm doing, if it's like a drink or if it's a Chinese restaurant or a normal restaurant,
Mm.
I just have these little things where it's like it's my go-to, and it kind of makes it's a mental thing of, oh, that wasn't nice, so I'm probably not going to go to that restaurant again, which is a sad way to look at things as well, because it's like I'm not really giving these places a proper chance.
Right.
But me personally, it's just, well, that's what I normally get. So if you can't make it, why? Like, why would I go to somewhere that I don't like? It's a
No, yeah.
preference. It's nothing on the restaurant. It's just me personally, and that's where people have to stop making these connections. Is that my opinion can be different. It doesn't mean that I'm shitting on that particular thing. It's just my opinion is I don't like it, so
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
that's an interesting point of view because I'm similar. Like when I go out and I drink, if I like when I go out to a bar, I used to bartend, so I know how to make mixed drinks. And like when you mentioned a whiskey sour, instantly my brain went, okay, 2 ounces of good bourbon, 3/4 ounces of lemon juice, half ounce of simple syrup. If you like it a little sweet, throw in a egg white in that bitch, and then some Angostura bitters on the top. Shake it up, put it in a sour glass. You're good to go. That's the traditional whiskey sour to me. Like, but then people they can remix it and stuff, and like, which is why I asked your recipe, because a lot of a whiskey sour can go. You swap out simple for demerara. You can instead of using Angostura bitters, you could put a little cocoa bitter on there and get a little different
yeah.
flair to it. So like that that's why I asked what your go-to kind of recipe was. Because I'm a traditionalist in a lot of ways when it comes to like mixed drinks. Because I grew up in bars. My mom was a bartender for 30 years. Like she was the best in my city. Like bars would recruit her whenever a new bar would open up. They'd be like, "Yo, Spike, are you gonna come work for me?" Blah 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 blah. You can run the bar. It's your show. So I grew up watching her make drinks, and then I was a bartender for a while. And so like when it comes to making cocktails, I tend to stick to the traditional ones, like a lot of the old time cocktails have seen a resurgence lately. They were lost for a long time. And when you mentioned whiskey sour, that was one that I heard somebody order a while ago when I went out, and I was like, all right, well, how's the bartender gonna make it? And the bartender was like, well, how do you make one of those? And I was like, I got you, I got you. He's like, oh, well, what do you know? I'm like, bro, I've done this. I grew up in this life. Trust me. Make it like this. The guy will be happy. And the guy's like, well, I never made one. I'm like, I can't go behind and make it for you. Just let me help you out. God damn it. And it turned out nice. But that's and like you said, like if you go to a restaurant and you kind of let the chef work his magic, if they don't know how to work the magic, then what are you doing behind that the
Yeah,
grill or whatever. So,
exactly.
but you mentioned something. I want to get your opinion before we move on to tonight's main topic: how to cook a steak. Let's go. How do you cook a steak, there, chef boy? Let's go. What do you got?
Medium rare.
All right. Well, what method? Do you have a method, or you just is that where you cook it?
Yeah, just simple. Sear it, pop it in the oven.
Pop in the oven.
Wee
All right.
bit of butter, wee bit of rosemary, wee bit of garlic. Baste that bitch. Boom. Simple.
There it is. I was waiting for the garlic and the rosemary because that's what I do if I'm doing it in a pan. I'll put a huge knob of butter in that bitch, salt, pepper, sear
What
it.
kind of pan do you use? But
Huh?
what kind of pan do you
Oh,
use?
I've got a chef's pan. I don't have a cast iron. I want to get a cast iron. I don't have
Need
one
to get
yet.
a cast iron
I
skillet.
know, I know, I know, I know. I've
It's
been
good.
wanting,
That
I've been,
extra.
I've been wanting one for a long time. I just haven't gotten around to getting one because they're fucking expensive.
Oh, definitely. Like they are
But
like
I've got me a good stainless. Like I got like a professional chef set where it's all stainless, and
yeah,
I've got the deep. I've got like the deep rimmed frying pan or the saute
yeah.
pan. So I do that in that, and I'll baste it with the butter and the rosemary and the fresh minced garlic. Yeah, but yeah, medium rare. I will give you this. I can do blue rare, rare, medium rare, and I can even go to medium. Anything after that, I will fucking stab you with a steak fork. I swear to God.
Yeah. Like I don't really like rare. I can go with rare. I can't go less than rare. Like I like Like, I don't want it to be mooing in a field still.
I love
like,
a blue rare every once in a while.
It has to be rare, medium, rare. Medium again. I can go with medium if it's just in the house. Like, I would never like if I turned up to a restaurant and they sent me a medium steak, I would throw it. But
Right?
if it's a non-professional, it's understandable.
Right.
It is one of the ones where 30 seconds is enough to go from medium rare to medium. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's real easy to
a
fuck it.
proper timing thing. So
Yeah, you
it's
can
like an
overshoot
egg.
it.
You could go like 30 seconds goes from a soft boiled to a hard boiled. It's hard to it's like not yet, not yet, not yet, ready, done. But
Yeah.
that's how it goes with that. So
yeah, it definitely can go. And like you said that the Indian restaurants make the best pizza. Now, is it because they use the tandoor oven to cook it, or what do you what?
no,
what
just a normal pizza oven.
really?
Yeah, they just know shit.
Because there's an Indian place that does pizza in the big city by me, and they use a tandoor oven to cook their dough.
Right.
So
No,
I was
these
curious.
ones here just tends to use a normal pizza oven, like the kind of like see the ones that you see, and it's like the thin slots
Mm.
with the stone in that just get slid in.
Yeah,
That's
the
pretty much all
industrial
they use.
pizza oven. Yeah, facts.
Yeah. So it's like it's not actually as if it's like a special thing. It's just I don't think I mean we do have pizza places here that make really really nice pizzas. Like I'm no shitting on pizza restaurants here. It's just when you get an Indian pizza, it just seems to have a lot more girth to it. Like a
Right.
lot more toppings. They don't skimp in the toppings. Like,
Mm.
I mean, probably what you'll find is the toppings that the Indian use are cheap horse meat as opposed to chicken that an Italian restaurant would use. But it just has that extra, like, fucking well done red rum.
Right.
Tasted great.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's great. I just wanted to see how they cooked it, because I'm a big like method guy. Like how you cook stuff. I'm really big on the method. Like
yeah.
I made a braised pot roast the other night with like carrots and onions and shit. And I got some bone broth and a half a cup of nice Cabernet Sauvignon. Threw that bitch in there, braised it up, stuck it in the oven for about 2.5 hours, and just let it go. Whereas opposed to like getting the big deep pot, the big stock pot, I just did like a shallow braise instead of like a deep sink. And I think I'm gonna do my pot roast like that from now on, because that was there was something to it. So yeah, I'm big on method on how things get cooked a lot. So
I
but
think as well, method does kind of it makes the difference. So because like the other week there, I made a leg of lamb,
mm,
and I literally just had it simple. Sort of sliced up some potatoes, laid them in the bottom, diced up some carrot. I didn't really dice up, just chopped up roasted some carrots, threw them in. Lamb goes in top, some water, just simple water. I mean, I seasoned the fuck out the lamb, like I had salt and pepper, decent the way it should be, and
mm,
then just let it slow roast for 4 hours, and it
not
was
bad.
falling off the bone. The stock had kind of formulated, and you were getting that kind of thick stock at the bottom with the carrots and it just everything about it just turned out perfect. It was exact. I'd been wanting it for a long time, and just it was one of the few times where everything went right, and it just came out the way I wanted it, and probably the happiest I've been in about 3 years.
Every once in a while you get those where you're like, oh, I could die a happy man right now. But yeah.
Exactly.
So to transition from our feistiness about food and beer, we're gonna talk about something that's very, very divisive. So for those of you that are watching on YouTube, or those of you that are listening on the podcast, we tend to go about a half hour, 45 minutes on the main topic. So just kind of skip ahead. But we're going to talk about policing. Now, before you say anything or you type your little comment like, oh, policing, here's the deal. Chris and I are white dudes, different sides of the world. The whole point of this conversation is about our experience, a little bit of constructive criticism, and maybe how, from an average guy's perspective, we can suggest some fixes to a lot of the current issues, because let's face it, policing is an extremely difficult job. I'm not a cop. Chris isn't a cop, but I have lots of cop friends, and I respect the hell out of them. But it is a profession that like most professions has some issues. And I've been on this planet 40 some years. I've had experiences with the police, and like with everything that's going on in the world, there it does stand to reason that there are improvements that could be made. And maybe if we give our opinion and our take, maybe it causes somebody a conversation that starts another conversation that starts another conversation. So that is how we're couching this topic. We're not sitting here going boo hiss. We're trying to discuss our experience about it, what we see the flaws are, and maybe some constructive criticism on how to improve it. Now, that being said, it is what it is. If you're gonna watch on the video, just skip ahead to where the now discussing section has changed to the next topic. Or if you're listening via podcast, just fast forward until we're done talking about it. So, Chris, disclaimers out of the way. Let's talk about policing. You are over in Scotland, so why don't we? I think I opened up the topic last week. Let's have you open up the topic and kind of you give me your kind of perspective on policing in Scotland, and I'll kind of give you my take on it, and then we'll discuss some experiences, and then we'll do some constructive criticism.
Yeah. Well, as I said when we were doing the sound check, when I seen that this is the topic you'd put in, I did have a few reservations on whether or not to go ahead with this
Right, and we
conversation.
discussed it
Just,
beforehand.
yeah, just purely on the basis that this topic is quite a touchy topic in the UK right now,
Touchy
as of
here.
reading kind of thing. Just with everything that's been kind of going on right now. Take account that we're the head of the Metropolitan Police, like the staff sergeant or whatever. She was kind of like called to resign, that
Okay.
she refused to do. Like it's that level that we're at just now. Personally, this is where kind of opinions can be, and I need to reiterate that you have to look at the context
Yes.
in which these things are being said, because as Doc said, the hardships that any other community in any country has gone through, we will never be able to fully understand, discuss, or imagine just what they've went through. Like there, there's no way you can parallel two different communities and how society has treated them. And to do so, personally, I think would be a major disservice to
Yes.
anyone that's been in that situation. So I want to get that out the way first, because I've never had a bad experience with a police officer. Anytime that I have dealt with the police, be it me involuntary going to police, or it being a roadside stop or anything like that, I've never had a negative experience. It's always been positive. It's always been good, handled well. But when you're reading in the news certain things that have been going on, my experience do not tell the story as to how it is. There has been a lot, like you see it on the news constantly right now, of certain organisations, certain police stations, certain police officers and stuff like that. I don't think you'll ever be able to put your finger on one of the two, whether it's good cops or bad cops. My opinion is you have bad cops and you have good cops, but if the good cops don't speak out against the bad cops, they're bad cops. That's it. So if you're unwilling to speak out about bad cops, you're not a good cop. Just because you're not doing it doesn't mean that you're a good cop, because you're allowing someone else to do it, and that is against what you're there to serve and protect the community. Yeah, yes, in certain situations you have to stand for like brothers in arms and stuff like that, but in the situations that have been getting brought up in the last, I mean, you can't even say the last year, like the last 1,000 years,
Mm.
it's been the same thing. Like, we've still no rid it of the world. So it's like the thing that's been going on with in the UK just now. There was a whole big thing. There was a vigil over a a lady that had been abducted and murdered, and it turned out to be an off-duty police officer that's been arrested,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to see the Old Bailey kind of thing. And there was quite a big thing. They wanted to hold a vigil, and the councils and the government said they couldn't do it because of the lockdown and the laws in place and stuff like that. And they decided to do so anyway. People turned up, mourned, paid their respects, which personally I had to sit outside the crematory at my neighbour's funeral last week,
Mm-hmm.
um, because we couldn't go in because there was a limit to how many people could go in.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I couldn't attend my aunt's funeral because there was a limit to how many people could go in. Personally, I was quite upset when I seen so many people turning up with a complete disregard to the safety and health of their fellow humans.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I could understand why, like, they wanted to pay the respects and that, but the thing that annoyed me about it is, yes, when you're seeing the news stories, the police were heavy-handed in a few situations, but what you also have to look at on the other side is the police were there to do their job and disperse the crowd. Certain members of the crowd that weren't there, they never intended to go and pay their respects. They were there to cause problems. That is, you could tell when one of the protesters, because that is what they are, they were not mourners, they were
Right.
protesters. They started making comments on, you can't keep us in, you can't stop our freedom. So it's about the lockdown. It's not about this
Right.
poor girl or woman that had her life taken. This was about the lockdown. You used something that was supposed to be respectful in mourning and used it to your advantage to cause problems. It was the same happened last year with the Black Lives Matter,
Yep.
whereas there was peaceful protesters that were going there to protest over the brutality, not just from the police, but from all angles of the community
Mm-hmm.
towards not even just black people or Latinos or anything like that. It was just any minority group that had went through hardship through systemic racism,
Mm-hmm.
and you had the select few that turned up to hijack and cause problems.
Right.
And these are the people that are getting the media view. These are the people that everybody's seeing, and your hardcore basic racists are seeing this, and it's filling their happy blood, knowing that they can go, this is why we shouldn't let them. And it's like, but that, like, it's causing more issues for the actual people that are wanting to have change.
Yeah.
And especially in the police side, they are not putting forward the correct way of handling the situations. Now, you go onto Facebook, you go onto Twitter, and you've got 1,000,001 professional people that knows every ins and out about this when they have not a fucking clue. I don't know what resources the police have. I don't know what situations and trainings police officers have in different situations. That's information that I'd love to have. I'd love to know exactly what the police have to be able to handle these situations. But I do feel personally that this has never been about the police in a certain movement or a certain anything. This has been about people in the middle that are just there to cause problems. And they're hijacking and casting blame on the wrong people. And it's, in that sense, it's hard for me to be able to kind of discuss ways that we can improve policing or criticise the police and that, because personally, I do not know enough information within the departments to be able to tell you, well, that's not working, that's not working, that's not working. And because I don't really have bad or negative experience with police officers, apart from the stories that I've heard, it's hard for me to be able to give a definitive where the police were wrong or the police were right. I can only look at things from the outside and take on both sides. And the way I've been seeing a lot of it is that on both sides, you've got the people that are there that are trying to do their best for change, and you've got the select few that don't want change, they just want to cause problems, more problems. And I think that's where my critiques would lie, is seeing these people, and instead of attacking the people that aren't there to cause the problems, focus on the bad. Let's rid that.
Yeah. I wanted to discuss this topic because it is such a hot button topic. It's always coming up in the news. There's always some story about police, whether it be positive or negative, and a lot of our pop culture is surrounded around police and their activities. So for me, when you're discussing policing, it's a many nuanced, many layered discussion, because it, on the one hand, it's a necessity, and on the other hand, it is so integral to having a law-abiding society that it needs to be monitored and watched and adjudicated and administered in a way where it's fair across the board. So for me, I've had my positive interactions with cops, and I've had my negative interactions with cops. I've had several instances where I've been thrown on the hood of a car, slammed on the hood of a car because of a mistaken identity for domestic violence. I was mistaken for my uncle, who was like 15 years older than I am, but we had the same initials. So, hang on a minute. I need to like deal with something real quick. Hang on. Sorry. I had to yell upstairs because people are banging and slamming, and I don't want that showing up on the recording. But
Yeah, we can cut that.
I've had negative interactions with the police department where I've had my head slammed on a hood, where they didn't want to listen to me because they thought I was a domestic abuser. I've been called in as a suspect for a statutory rape case, and it turned out I didn't do it, but it turned out that I was supposedly at the place it happened, so I had to be interviewed as like a potential witness. But when I was called, it was, you're being charged with statutory rape. I've dealt with situations where I've been pulled over and been aggressively dealt with. So I've had negative interactions. I've also had very positive interactions. My older child has had some significant mental health problems in his teenage years, where we had to notify the police a couple times and have it dealt with, and those interactions went really well for what it was. So I think I wanted to talk about policing as a from a perspective of I've gone through it, I've seen people going through it, and everybody, like you said on Twitter, has got, oh, do this, do that, and I feel like the messaging and some of the things are wrong, and I kind of wanted to weigh in on that because I know a lot of police, I know a lot of detectives, I have police in my family, and I think I really wanted to kind of discuss it because it is such a hot topic, and I think that you and I, on different sides of the world or different parts of the world, could have an interesting perspective. Where you said you didn't have many negative interactions, so with the Black Lives Matter protests and all the police brutality that happened this summer, um, a lot of clashes happened and a lot of people got hurt and a lot of officers were put in danger and they got hurt, and a lot of it stems from people co-opting the message on both sides. Like you said, the people who protested peacefully were there to protest and get their message across and do the best for change.
Yeah.
Then you had some officers who were there who were like, okay, we hear you, we see you. Then you had the dickheads on the rioter side who were there to start fights, and they would antagonize and they would hide within the protesters, which then instigated police response. But on the other side, you had some of them fucking meathead, asshole, fucking dickhead cops who were just chomping at the bit to do some shit.
Well, yeah, like that is what I was meaning. Like,
yeah,
you had the protesters and the rioters that were wanting to cause problems, and you had the section of the police that were just waiting for an excuse to be able to use the force. Like that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I think that's where the major issue lies. Is you have bad actors on both sides who have bad intentions regardless of what's going on. And, when the two collide, the collateral damage is significant. So the question is, well, Chris and Dox, you're making points that are made. Yes, there are bad actors on both sides. But to just say that and not provide an answer or provide some clarification is just yelling into the void what everybody's yelled. So here's some more thoughts I had. Amongst those riots, out came this defund the police, right? Defund the police, blah blah blah. This whole rhetoric about defunding the police, and I disagree with that rhetoric 100%. I don't think defunding the police is the proper action because one, officers are overworked and underpaid. Administrators and the bureaucracy of the police are overpaid and don't work enough. So again, the problem isn't with the guys and the gals doing the job. My problem is with the bureaucrats who have unrealistic expectations of what actual policing is and are collecting the majority of the paycheck. So defund the police when you talk about it is and I'm gonna get kind of brash, I'm gonna get kind of mean about it. It's a stupid idea. Okay? You cannot defund the police. We need them. We need police. We need some sort of professional officer that can intervene in life or death situations. I will say this though. Jocko Willink, who is a former Navy SEAL and does like training with police departments around the world, had a very important take on it, and I'll try and link it on Twitter. What Jocko Willink said was, you don't defund the police, you reallocate those funds and invest in the police. And by reallocating funds, he meant you invest in other programs outside of the police, social outreach programs, crisis programs that are gravely understaffed and gravely underfunded. You then, when those funds are allocated to better those neighborhood outreach programs, you then tie them to the police department in a way that if there is a call that does not require a man with a gun or a woman with a gun and cuffs, the cops do not show up. A crisis worker, a psychologist, a person who deals with autism or emotional disturbed issues can be dispatched to deal with the situation in a professional manner that is appropriate for that response. You have the cops there as like an escort or whatever, but they're not the lead. They're not the ones that they don't make the initial contact. They don't deal with it.
Yeah.
Um which then ties into the other point that Jocko made is we have to reassess and reclassify what is a police call and what is an issue that the police deal with, because nowadays cops are called for everything from my cat stuck in a tree to there's a killer with a knife in the house.
Yeah.
Not all of those calls require a police officer. So
Yeah.
over the years, we've become so accustomed to having the police handle everything that it's beyond the scope of their training. It's beyond the scope of their profession. And for the most part, a lot of them do a great job. Like they do a great job at handling those calls, but they're not those calls. So not only do we need to reallocate funds and improve neighborhood outreach programs and access to services and professional outreach, we need to clarify what is a police call. 3, we need to invest in officers training. Now, over here in America, I think I'm spouting off the top of my head because I'm not a criminal expert. I'm not a police science major. To become a police officer, you have to pass something like 500 hours of training. That's it. 500 hours in a police academy. And then you are sent out in the street to deal with rape, murder, domestic violence, armed robbery, bank robbery. Just you deal with the worst of the worst day in and day out, and you get 500 hours of training. Lawyers require 4 years and a bar exam. Doctors require 8 years and a bunch of exams. Judges require 8 years to adjudicate law. Lawyers require 4 years to what's the word I'm looking for? Litigate law.
Yeah.
But the guys who are enforcing the law only have 500 hours of training, and it's general training, not specific training.
Yeah, there's a definite something no right here.
Yeah,
than that.
Something ain't right for sure.
Yeah.
But
like,
go ahead.
I definitely do agree with the fact that we shouldn't be defunding the police. We should be restructuring
100%.
the police.
100%.
Like everything that you've said, I completely agree with, and that there's so many avenues that are not being used to their full potential.
Yes.
That could take so much off of the police, and which they're having to handle. So yeah, I didn't mean to actually cut in. I just wanted to reaffirm your points there.
Yeah, and when you look at it from that lens, right? And there's a few more angles I want to hit, and then we'll move on to other stuff. But so you get that core, right? You get those core tenets of this is how we could make improvements, right? Mm-hmm. Another big improvement is, in my opinion, and like I said, I'm a white guy from the Midwest. I have not had to deal with the struggle that my Hispanic neighbors had or my African American neighbors had. My experience is totally different. But from somebody who has been to college and studied forensic anthropology and criminology and psychology, and I grew up around cops and I have cop friends, even they say that like this is what needs to happen. And I think if the guys in the streets agree with like what we suggested, and I took that from Jocko Willick, and I proposed it to a couple of my cop buddies, they were like, we agree 100%. Policing should be a 4-year degree 100%. And your curriculum should be criminology, psychology, communications training, on top of all your physical requirements of shooting, arresting, physical defense, all that stuff. We need to better educate and better train our officers. And Jocko Willink said also, your officers should dedicate at least one day out of their rotation to training, be situational training, circumstantial training, psychological training, what do they call, condition recognition training, where you can recognize if a kid is autistic or if they're bipolar or if they're emotionally disturbed or suicidal, so that officers can go in with a toolbox that is not just guns, cuff, taser, pepper spray, bulletproof vest, right? Because we know from military experts and training that if you train with a tool regularly, you're going to use that tool. And if an officer's only tool is cuffs, gun, taser, pepper spray, what do you think they're going to use? So I think that's key. And then another big point, and I'll let you kind of chime in and give your thoughts when I finish this point. We need to end the long-standing cover your own ass and this is a brotherhood mentality of police departments, because those two issues are what keep the bad cops in badges.
Yeah,
because you even see it in movies and pop culture. The villain of the movie is a corrupt cop. What do the good cops do? Well, I don't know. Well, we don't know what to do. You hear, oh, you can't take down, like the bad cops because then you're a snitch and the brothers will turn on you. Fuck that shit. I see some cop whipping some dude's ass with excessive force, or I see a cop and I'm on the force. I see a cop taking a 20-gram bribe. That motherfucker's getting yeeted. Like, out. Yeah. I'm like, bro, you're arrested. Fuck you. You're done. Because I'm not having corrupt bad cops on my force walking my streets, because then you get these brutality cases. Now, I know
they're the ones that are kind of like, that's now the reputation of the police, is that these people are involved. Like, is that the image that you want? Like, is that how you want your job to be viewed? Is that you're like you'll cover up for arseholes? Like, because that's what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. I'm just seeing, like, as I said at the start, you have good cops and you have bad cops. But when the good cops don't speak out against the bad cops, the good cops are bad cops too. Unless you speak out, you're a bad cop. You're not doing your duty as a police officer.
Yeah, but then you get that pressure though. Oh, you snitched on a brother. How dare you? You're the rat. Me, I'd be like, fuck that. He broke his oath. He broke his oath. Yeah. Get him out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
But unfortunately, through years and years and years and systemic bullshit and all this stuff, that the good cops, who from all accounts outnumber the bad cops, are too afraid to step up and do that. And why is that, I wonder? Why are the good cops so against? And I put this to you, the YouTube commenter or the podcast viewer, like, why is it that the good cops are so afraid of turning in the bad cops? I mean, from my perspective, it's just corruption and the fact that they don't want to be viewed as a snitch, or they don't want to have to put their name out there or whatnot. And I get those are valid concerns, but you made an oath to serve and protect.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't go for protecting me and you. That goes for turning in your buddy who's the bad guy. Like,
exactly.
The logic of that just boggles my mind. I don't understand why. And maybe it's because I'm not there. I'm not in that brotherhood. I'm not in that situation. But like, if you and I were cops, I would want to know that you're one of the good guys. I wouldn't want to have to second guess whether you're going to put a bullet in me if we go to kick in a drug house and you're going to steal the cash. Like me as an honorable person, just, I don't understand that. And that's one of the things that I think people are so frustrated about, is a lot of the whole policing thing is kept behind layers and layers of brotherhood and protect the shield and bureaucracy, to where the lack of transparency in policing really, really causes a problem. And I think if some changes are instituted, like we discussed, and maybe the good cops are empowered to speak up and take down the bad cops. I think a lot of the issues that we suffer from will not go away because we're always going to suffer people who abuse power, and there's always going to be corruption and stuff. But I think
Yeah.
a lot of the cases will come down. But that means the cops and our society are going to have to ask themselves the hard questions. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I think I'm following along. Um, Touching on your point of like the brotherhood and how to, I'd like again, it's hard to have an opinion and all that without being educated on the
Mm-hmm.
matter. But I'd love to know what goes into the training, especially in a US department, like the whole brotherhood thing. Is that something that is drilled in on a training, like you talk about like kind of like the military and stuff like that, and how it's like the person next to you is your brother, you
Mm-hmm.
will lay down your life and all that kind of stuff for your brothers and that. And I wonder if that's a similar way that's being done, because when it comes to the military, when you watch movies and that stuff with the military, it's a similar thing in that you've got the certain soldiers that will go in and they'll like attack civilians, or they'll rape women and stuff like that, and the rest of the platoon, the brotherhood, won't speak out. It's just that's what it is. And I wonder if that is just something that's taught within the training, that no matter what, you stand by your brother. Because like when you learn the ropes, like a delivery driver, we've got delivery drivers that can't do the job, they're bad delivery drivers.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sitting there going, no, we will stand by our brother, like he is a good driver. So like, no, we go get him to fuck because he's losing us money.
Yeah.
That's it. Like he's making us look bad. Look at it. Like nobody wants to come to your company because like we can't deliver a simple parcel. And it's like your our job as a delivery driver is to deliver parcels. If you can't do that, why the fuck are you here? And it's, in my opinion, it's similar. Like if your sole purpose is to serve and protect the people that of the community, if you don't do that, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what brotherhood do you think you're a part of? Because as far as anybody's concerned, you're just a prick. You're just a asshole that nobody's going to give a fuck about. Whereas if you're the person that stood up, like, yeah, there might be some shitty ass cops that will kind of, oh, you're a snitch, we're not going to give you any information. But see, when you've got 47 million people that are sitting there going, he's one of the fucking good ones, I know what I'd rather have.
Yeah. Me too. 100%.
So it's like, it's, I'd love to know more of the background of the training and stuff like that, just to see if that's where it stemmed from. Because if that is where it's stemming from, then it's not an easy fix,
No, it's
but
not.
it's somewhere to start. Like at least we know where to start if this restructuring, because it is a lost thing in that I can be driving down the street now. I said throughout that I've never had a negative experience with a police officer. I can be driving down the street and see if I see a police car in my rearview mirror. My initial thing is act cool.
Yeah.
You've no done, and it's like that shouldn't be my initial thought process of right. Did I do something? I'm pretty like just the presence of a police car makes me question if I done something, if I broke the law, if I fucked up, what have I done that has resulted in this? And it's like I've done fuck all. But it's just the mentality towards police officers. That's where it is. Even with someone that's never had a negative experience, that is my first go-to thought. And it shouldn't be that way. These people are there to bring safety to community. And just that's where the whole standing up for the bad cops because you don't want to be a snitch. that's where you have to look at it, is that the people do not trust police officers because of these ones that you are not willing to stand up against.
Yeah.
So you cannot argue or be offended when the public do not trust you, because you're not giving them a reason to trust you. Like, you don't just give trust willy-nilly. Like, I've finally decided there's a parcel company here called DPD. Now, I've had bad experience with them. I'm pretty sure they've got thousands of drivers, and most of them are probably good drivers. But because of the experiences that I've had with DPD, I physically cancel orders to companies that then tell me, like, see, once I've put through all my order and I've paid and all that, see when it comes up, your delivery is now with. I immediately contact and cancel, because I do not want my parcel going with that company because of the experiences that I've had with a certain few drivers of that company. And that's bad on my part. Like, that's a fault with me, that I am viewing it that way. Like, there's nothing wrong with the company as a whole. They're a parcel company. That's just it. They deliver parcels. But because the experience that I've had, that's the prejudice that I have of it. And that's the way that people, especially in the UK, feel, because I'm not the only one that has that initial thought when I see a police officer. Like, even kids that are learning, like when we were learning in school, it was always, if you have a problem and you go to a police officer, ask the police officer for a help. And it's like, you've now got kids that don't trust police officers. And that should never be the case. Like, it should never be that you feel scared and you can't phone the police because you don't know which one's going to turn up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I have that similar response too, where it's like if I'm driving, my kids are in the car. I do like 5 over because that's typical.
Shocking.
But like,
Shocking, you dangerous
I
bastard.
know, right? 5 over. Oh no. But yeah, if I see a squad, I'm like, all right, what 10-2. I'm not a bad driver. I don't break a lot of rules, but like, yeah, you're right. I have that response of like, oh shit, what'd I do? But then I juxtapose that to my friend who is an African American, and I talked to him about this topic that we were discussing tonight, and he goes, man, you just don't know. And I'm like, no, I want to know. Tell me. And he's like, yeah, your worst thought when you see a cop is, oh, what am I doing wrong? My worst thought is, am I going to get shot?
Yeah. Well,
And like,
that was the point I was going to make, is that
right.
my
But
first thought is, what if I broke the law? But after that, the police pass by. For most people and minorities, the police don't pass by.
yeah.
That's the sticking truth of it.
Yeah, and that touches on the systemic racism point that you made earlier, that there is a lot of systemic racism built into policing, because policing was built by the powers that be, the ones that are in charge. So of course police are going to be, and the science is there, folks. Like, if you're about to say, "Whoa, dude," read any fucking study that's come out in the last 10 years. It is guaranteed, scientifically proven, that cops arrest African Americans, Latinos, and minorities far and away more than they arrest white folks. And it's a fact. You can't even argue it. So systemic racism is a thing. And that's one thing that also needs to be addressed and acknowledged, because the origins of policing in the US was, I'm gonna say something that's gonna upset a lot of people, slave posses. The first cops were legalized slave catchers who chased down and brought back runaway slaves. And from those posses came about the early police departments. So you can't tell me that systemic racism isn't built into policing. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't, I'm not saying anything that's not new. People just don't want to face the facts that it's there, and they don't want to address it, because in order to address systemic racism, we need to admit that we fucked up. And we got a lot of rebuilding and restructuring and a lot of amends we need to make. I'm not talking about reparations and stuff, but there's a lot of amends we need to make, because there's a lot of people who were wrongly harassed, who were wrongly profiled, who were wrongly imprisoned, who were wrongly executed. And in order for us to move forward and better ourselves as a society and have better policing, we need to acknowledge that, as well as, like we talked about, restructuring and adding new programs. Because 9 times out of 10, when I see a cop, I don't sweat shit. Like I see officers in my neighborhood all the time, and I live in a predominantly Hispanic and Black neighborhood. I can walk out and be like, "What's up, boss?" And they'll be like, "Hey, what's going on?" My neighbors won't come out; they won't say shit. But every officer that's in our neighborhood is a pretty decent dude or chick. Like,
Yeah.
and we've got mixed teamed officers. We got white cops and black cops and Hispanic cops that run our neighborhood. But like, I'm cool with all of them. I go and talk to them. Like the other night, I was taking the trash out and my dog was out with me. Cop was over on the side of the road. I walked right over. Dog walked over. Cop was like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Not much, man. How's your night?" Why can I do that, but yet my neighbors can't? Because they're fucking afraid. They don't know. But I don't have that fear, and they should be able to do the same thing that I do, but they can't because they don't know who they're getting,
Exactly.
and that's fucking bullshit. And the opposite is true, right? The opposite is true because then you get these fucking shitheads who do nothing but go "fuck you, pig" and "suck my dick" and "you're a fucking baby kill." Like, bro, do you not have any sense in your brain? Like, what'd you expect? You called the cop a fucking pig, and you called him a fucking the worst thing on the planet. What'd you think? He was gonna be nice to you and say, "Oh, that's okay. Happy to do this." Fuck no. At my job as a professional security officer, if you say "fuck you," I'm gonna turn around and go, "Excuse the fuck out of you." I'll take this uniform off right now and we'll swing. What do you think?
To be honest, with a fucking delivery driver, I've had moments where somebody's stymied and I've went, "Here, I don't give a fuck if you don't come back to my company. Like, I will knock you the fuck out. If you ever talk to me, like, if you talk to anybody with that tone of voice, who the fuck do you think you are?
Let alone
It's
a
like, you're
cop.
fucking nobody."
Yeah, I don't know. It boggles my mind. I think it's important though, as we offer critique on the police, we also need to critique ourselves. And that's why I brought that up because, like you said, when we grew up, go get a cop. You can always go to a cop. Nowadays, you can't. And it's mainly because the shitheads of the world have made it so there is that divide between us where cops are viewed as like the enemy and the public on the cops persona is viewed as like, oh, they're potential targets. And I think before we can grow forward and move forward with any of what we discussed, there needs to be acknowledgement and acceptance on both sides of the stupid shit that's gone on and the bad shit that's gone on. We need to acknowledge it, air it out, make amends for it, and then proceed together. Otherwise, we're gonna have the same old bullshit, the same old systemic racism, the same old fucking bad cops getting protected by good cops. But it requires both sides and both sides to be honest. And I think a lot of times humans don't want to admit their mistakes. Cops don't want to admit they were wrong, and like kids don't want to admit that they broke the law, or people don't want to admit that they broke the law, or they pushed the cop too far, or they willfully broke the law. Like, I know going 5 over is technically illegal. Like, I know I'm breaking the law technically, but
Yeah.
there's an agreement between most people and officers. Like, if you just don't be doing 120 into 35. Like,
Yeah.
5 over, we're not going to worry about it. It's not worth the paperwork. It's not worth our time when there's other shit going on. But I think if you want to, I mean, I'll leave it up to you to put a final thought on this, and then we'll go into some rambles because we've been going on this for about 25, 30 minutes or so. So if you want to add a final thought.
Well, my final thought, which I would put this final thought on everything, is don't I cannot, like, even yourself, after this is done, I do want to kind of look up a few of your points because you made a few statements of like that scientific fact and stuff like that, where I'd like to get the details of it.
I'm listening, Chris. Go ahead.
I'd like to get more details on it because without the kind of I don't like putting those kind of facts out if I don't have the facts kind of thing. So for my final thought is, don't just take everything as it is.
Right.
Do your research, look into it. If you feel as if the police are on the wrong side, research it and explain why that is. If you think that the police are research it and explain why that's your argument. Don't just go on Facebook or Twitter and because this person that got 20,000 likes on a post must be true. That's not how this works. That is not how any of this works. Do your research, look into things. If you want to put out an opinion, put out an informed, educated opinion. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have enough information or research on the goings on of police departments, training, or anything like that. So, my opinion is purely based on my own understanding of how things work. And if there is anybody that has information or a difference of opinion, please get in touch because I'd love to know more from both sides as to why. And if anybody can put through an informed, not just shouting and bawling and I'm right, you, an informed debate, let me know.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with the final point. Like I said, a lot of my points I made through my experiences with having friends who are officers, going through some educational training in college, and spending a lot of time around cops. And even I don't know all the ins and outs. A lot of my points I made based off of anecdotal and experiential evidence from what I got. And when with what Chris said, 100% do your research. If you disagree with any of the points you raised or any of the arguments we have, this is why we're doing this topic. We want there to be an open forum. We want there to be an open discussion because the more we can discuss this topic, the more we can make informed choices about how we go forward with law enforcement and the potential restructuring, or how we conversate about policing as not only an institution but as a service to our communities. Because maybe, and this is my hope of why we've discussed this like it is, this is my hope, maybe somebody hears this and they're like, hey, Doc said something that I should look up, or Chris said this point, was he right? Do I need, and maybe that encourages them to do the research and branch out, and maybe down the line that person becomes somebody who does restructure or rewrites the way policing is. Maybe that kid that hears this, or that young adult who is trying to figure out the world, maybe it pulls them from what they're doing and says, oh yeah, maybe do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it starts the conversation that leads to change. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I don't think it detracts from the conversation to have an honest discussion about how we feel about it and how we see it from our perspective. And that's what it is. It's our perspective. It's our opinion. You can either be angry about it and holler at me on Twitter and I'll mute your ass, or you can say, hey, Docs, you made this point. Here's why I disagree, or here's why I agree. So, we'll move on to my ramble because it kind of dovetails into policing and a little bit of some of the common courtesy we got away from my daughter. So we'll head into my ramble because it kind of dovetails into what we talked about last week, common courtesy and a little bit of legal action. So I said this week was good and my weekend was really good, but it ended on a sour note. What happened was, all right, go away, go away, and the girlfriend's like, no. This weekend was really good, but it ended on a sour note. What happened was my daughter went skateboarding. I got it. My brain wasn't working. My daughter went skateboarding with a friend, and they were in a park, and she dropped her phone. She was trying to put it back in her pocket, missed the pocket. It hit the cement. She skated past, didn't know. Realized it was missing, turned around. Some kid, fucking asshole, picked it up and was like, yo, is this your phone? And her and her girlfriend were like, yeah, it's that. And he just fucking yeeted that bitch into the lake. And my daughter comes home and she's upset. Obviously, Dad, my phone's in the lake. I'm sorry. was like, all right, don't worry about it. It wasn't your fault. Let's go down there and see if we can't find it and maybe address the situation. We go down there, can't find it. Locator's offline because it's obviously in the lake. We go to talk to the individual who, you know, the little fucking shithead kid who fucking threw it in the lake and, oh, fuck you, blah, 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 blah. And that becomes a thing, and, you know, it starts to get very agitated. We got to call the police, and the police show up, and it becomes an even bigger thing. And all it boils down to is, well, the cops come to us and go, well, we can't do anything to the individual because her phone is considered abandoned property. Excuse me? It fell out of her pocket, landed on the sidewalk for less than 2 minutes, and this little fucking jackass picks it up, asks her if it's her phone. Both the girls say, yeah, that's her phone, and he wings it in the lake, and that's abandoned property.
Yeah, like, as soon as she claimed that it was hers, it's no longer abandoned.
And that was the argument we made. And it was like, nope, we don't agree with that, blah, 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 blah. So, to make a long story short, and not to belabor the point, is one, I think the cops were wrong because, like you said, she acknowledged it was her property. The kid acknowledged that, you know, he's like, oh, okay. Wing, it's no longer abandoned property. What should have happened is that kid should have been arrested, brought down to, and here's what I've liked to have seen happen. This is what I'm saying. So hear me out before you start roasting me in the comments. Throw the kid in the back of the squad, drive him down to the station, contact his parents, explain to them why the kid is down at the station. He's not being charged with anything right now, but he is being hauled in because he did allegedly chuck a phone into the lake. Yeah. We've got 2 eyewitnesses that said they did it. What my girlfriend and I would have done would have asked the parents that, hey, we don't necessarily want to press charges, but what we would like to see happen is the kid get some sort of punishment in the home, and that you, the parents, give us the cash value of the phone. We won't press any charges. There'll be no police report, none of that. We're good with that. But no, the cops didn't even want to do that. They were like, well, it's a thing, you know, we don't really want, it's abandoned property. I don't understand that. Like, the kid winged a phone in a lake. Clearly there was a crime committed. Like
I'm pretty sure that then comes under is destruction of private property.
Yeah. Or even theft. Because they don't, like... So, I don't want to belabor the point of the cops, but I was really frustrated with that because my daughter... She's no angel. None of my kids are. They all fuck up. They all have their bad habits. They're all idiots in their own right. They're not perfect. They make mistakes all the time. But my daughter has been raised to recognize the expense and the responsibility that technology is. This shit ain't cheap. She and her brother all have to pay their bill. And the way they pay the bill is they are expected to uphold B grades on average. You have to have B's on your report card. And you are not only to do your chores, but other chores that are not asked of you to pay your bill. Because dad pays the bill.
Yeah.
But you pay dad by having a B or average or B or higher grades, and by doing the extra work around the house without, and the key is to not being asked to do it. So if I'm going to ask you to do it, you're not paying your bill. I'm telling you to do it. My daughter has gone above and beyond this and understands the responsibility. That's why she was so heartbroken. And I think the big point of my ramble is, in the end, I was able to get her a new phone because I have, you know, I'm one of those parents that pays for the high-end insurance on things like computers, tablets, phones, and my vehicles. I don't get like 2-year protection plans for everything I buy, but something that's like a phone that's a necessity, I'm going to. Yeah. She got a new phone. We've got it set up. It was all taken care of, but like in the end, the fact that the cops were unwilling to do anything about it so that we could at least get it resolved, and we could get
that was the kind of main
right. The kid should face some sort of consequence for what he did, and he's probably not going to. And
and how many times like that's where it kind of stems from, is when will it stop for him? How many more people is he going to think with that? Like, how many times, how much worse is the crimes that he commits going to become?
Because
And
he's
it could have
emboldened.
all been stopped and butted if yesterday that was taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just allowing it to snowball and snowball and snowball, and that's it. So,
And the thing is like, the neighborhood we live in, it's a blue collar, hardworking neighborhood. So my benefit of the doubt is this kid's parents would have been like mortified that their son did that. They would have been like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And
yeah.
if we had the opportunity to meet down at the police station on neutral ground and say, "This is what we would like to see," I'm sure the parents would have been, "You bet your ass it's gonna happen. I'm so sorry this happened." But now this kid will be able to be like, "Oh, well, I didn't get busted for yeeting like a hundreds of dollar phone in the lake. My
Yeah.
mom and dad aren't gonna find out that I fucking stole and destroyed someone's property. So now he can do whatever he wants." But on some levels, I think that, and I'm gonna shit on the cops a little bit here because I'm kind of angry about it. They just didn't want to deal with it. They just didn't want to deal with the hassle of having to deal with the situation because they probably assumed that I had insurance on the phone and I could just get her another one.
Yeah.
And it's
But
just
that, again, that is not the point of
right.
this whole thing. Like, laws are in place for these things not to occur. And what's the point in having the laws if the people that are supposed to uphold the laws aren't doing so?
Yeah, and like we said, what's to stop that kid from doing something else or something worse? If like I remember back in the day when I was a kid, I stole a pack of Batman trading cards from the local gas station. Right? I didn't
Oh,
have
I'm
them.
going to judge you so
I know,
much now.
right? Oh, don't worry. It
So,
gets worse.
imagine in such a thing. I hope the police see this and come after you.
Oh
Sort of a
no.
horrible, horrible human being.
And I did. I was like 8, right? I took them. I willfully knew I was breaking the law. My mom found them and beat the ever loving fuck out of me. And I'm not advocating that this kid get an ass whooping like I got. Like, that was not my point. But my mom beat my ass, bloodied my lip, fucked me up, then walked me down, fresh bloody lip and all, to the gas station, made me return and tell the gentleman that I lost, that I stole the cards because I wanted them and didn't have the money to pay for them. Then she not only paid for the cards, but made me work 2 weekends washing that man's windows, sweeping the steps. This kid could have faced consequences that may have
Yeah.
avoided further shit, and now he's gonna skate because
And it
either
does touch on the whole, if the cops weren't willing to do the one A4 sheet of paperwork it would have been put into doing that, how can we expect them to want to do the rape cases, the murder cases, the stalking, that? Because there's a lot more paperwork involved in that. And if they're not willing to do the simplest of jobs, how can we trust that they'll be willing to? Because, like, again, it falls into the argument where a lot of people feel let down by the police and not taking action either sooner or at all. And it's like, well, when you're looking at it to the point of they're not even doing the simplest of tasks of pulling up a child for destruction of property, then what are we even expecting?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
this is where you start getting the scary points of, are we just going to have vigilantes that are just going to go find out where these people that have committed the crime and take it into their own hands?
yeah, and like I said, but I back in the day, because we do reference our growing up. Back in the day, my mom would have met with any parent if I had done something to some kid. If I had kicked the kid's ass or stole the kid's shit, my mom would have showed up at that parent's house. The two parents would have sat in the living room, talked it out. I would have got an ass whooping by both parents,
Mhm.
and then my ass would have been working in that person's garage or their yard or their home or whatever to make amends for the wrong I committed. Now, this kid for the most part, like I'm not there. I don't know what happened after, but I can almost guarantee that this kid's not, nothing's going to happen to this kid. He's just going to do it again to somebody else. And maybe that other person doesn't take his shit and hurts him. Or maybe it's something worse and that kid hurt somebody. And that was my concern, was like watching that whole thing unfold. I kept thinking that. I'm like, this kid's not going to have anything done to him. And either he's going to try it again and someone who isn't us is going to fuck that kid up and potentially hurt him real bad. Or he's going to go and just escalate and escalate. Because in that moment, if you look at your life, there's a crossroads, right? You always have these crossroads in your life. Like, if X happens, these things then trigger. If Y happens, these things trigger, right? The decisions you make have consequences, and those consequences then inform further decisions. This kid didn't get a consequence for whipping like a $300, $400 phone into a lake. Didn't get nothing. Cops told him, go home, don't do it again, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's going to tell his parents that he did that. He's not going to serve any meaningful consequence. And that was my takeaway. It wasn't the fact that my daughter lost her phone. It wasn't the fact that the cops were being lazy, I guess, in a sense, or they had deemed it where it wasn't worth their time. But my concern is, like, what happens to this kid down the road? Because for a long time, my oldest, who has a lot of mental health problems, and he's doing better now. He's doing really good now. He didn't have consequences. Like, we would give him consequences at the house, but he wouldn't face consequences at school, or like the child system, the legal system didn't want to deal with him because he was always just a kid. He's had a rough life, and it made him escalate his shit worse. Yeah. And it ultimately culminated in some really bad shit for him. That could have been all avoided if people who have the ability to do stuff and make decisions to give consequences or pursue legal issues would have stepped up and took the time to do the job and listen to what was being said. Maybe he would have been spared those years of pain and suffering. But instead he had to go through it. And that was my thought of, like, this kid. What's going to happen to this kid if he didn't get a consequence for this pretty nasty issue? Because when we got there, man, the kids were saying, like, 11, 10-year-olds were just saying, like, we're going to kill you, fuck you. Like, and I'm being completely, I'm not, but it was just the most vile shit. And I was like, bro, if you were an adult, I would fucking throw you in the lake right now. I'd fucking beat your ass and break your jaw for the way you're speaking to this woman here and that child. That, like, dude, you don't fucking talk to people like that. You're only getting away with it because you're 11. And if you're lucky, I can't fucking knock your head off your shoulders. Like, that was, like, I had to walk away. I was like, I'm going to kill somebody out here. Because there's just the level of disrespect that was spewed at us. I was like, we didn't even go up in there aggressive. We were just like, hey, what's the deal? Can we get some, answers? And it was just like, fuck you, blah, blah, bitch, whore, that motherfucking. Bro, come at me with that energy when you're 18. Come at me with that energy when you're 18. I will literally hospitalize you. And then I'll tell your parents what you did, and they'll show up at the hospital and whoop your ass for the way you acted. But, I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. It's just, I wish that courtesy and that respect and the officers maybe would have done something so that a future event like this could be avoided. I guess that's my takeaway is, like, I really wish there would have been some form of resolution outside of us, basically paying for the insurance to get her a new phone. I wish there would have been a resolution that maybe a lesson could be taught to that kid. Yeah. So that he can make better choices in the future. Yeah. But that's my ramble,
Yeah, that went a lot different from the thing you'd put up, because I was my initial thing reading the document was, we're going to talk about insuring your shit.
Well, and that is,
that was the kind of, the takeaway I took from it is insure your tech.
Well, yeah,
take out that $15 a month insurance, because assholes be assholes.
Yeah, no, for real. I guess that is the overall moral of the story, because, like, if you have if you have $1,000 smartphone and it gets yeeted in a lake, $15 that $15 a month charge really saved my ass because she'd have been ass out of a phone for however fucking long it would have been. I mean, I would have given it her brother's because he ain't paying his bill in months, so fuck him. But yeah, definitely like if you have high end tech, don't be Scrooge, man. Pay that $15.
I wouldn't even say high end tech. See, just tech that you can't go without if it's because I mean I'm quite handy because the insurance here, it's all like whenever we discuss anything that involves money, it's so much easier here.
Why?
No matter what it is, it's always easier and cheaper here. But it's like my car insurance literally comes with a £2,500 tech insurance for my property. Not within the car, just my property. So if my computer gets stolen or my phone gets stolen or anything like that, insurance pays out. And that's my car insurance. That's not even property insurance that you take out when you've got your house.
Dude, I'm mad jealous right now.
Like, even my breakdown cover has loss to possessions in my car. And that's just my breakdown cover. Like, if my car gets stolen, anything that was in it, my breakdown cover pays for it.
Wow, that would be fucking nice.
And my car insurance works out at something like 60 quid a month.
Mine's 45.
Yeah, but I've not been driving as long as you.
Well, I'm
a delivery driver, so that puts my thing up,
right?
Which is bullshit.
Yeah, but I don't get like property coverage or tech coverage. But fuck you, man.
And my breakdown covers something like £2 a month.
Oh, kiss my ass, dude.
And that for them coming out. And the funniest thing is I've got European coverage, so it's like and normally what will happen is it'll be like if you're 2 miles from your home, they'll tow you to your house. If not, they'll tow you to the nearest garage. My cover at £2 a month takes me home. So if I'm 500 miles away, they'll tow my ass back here.
Kiss my ass.
And I have key coverage.
Bro, we get 8 miles. No matter where you get 8 miles. That's it. You get 8 miles with my breakdown coverage.
M&M bastards.
Yeah. 8 miles to the nearest garage or your house. That's it. 8 miles. Go kiss my ass, Mr. I got it. Yeah. Oh, God. I'm so angry now. Fuck you, Chris.
That'll skin you like £1 a month if you want just the 8 miles.
Oh, my God. Fuck that, dude.
You want to double that price and get full European cover?
I wish. That's such bullshit. But yeah, like I said, man, I mean, we paid for it. We got the insurance. Like, so if you're one of them Scrooges who's like, I don't gotta pay for device insurance, pay for the device insurance. Assholes are assholes.
I would say pay for all insurance. Like, see, even insurance that you don't think you'll need. Travel insurance. The amount of people that say they don't take out travel insurance. I take out travel insurance because
what is that?
When this hit and my flights to America got cancelled, I got my payout immediately because my travel insurance covered it. Everybody else is having to legal battles with BA and they have to fight for us. 6-7 months later, they're finally getting a coupon for money off their next flight at British Airways. And it's like, as soon as I contacted them, I went, look, this is the deal. Here's my insurance. And they went, it'll be back in your account within 5 working days.
Jesus, that must be nice.
And I paid $3.47 for my travel insurance for their flights.
Was that like $3, £3.47?
Yeah, just for my because like you can take out like a yearly coverage. Like when I was working abroad a lot, I did have a kind of. I think it worked at something like £45 a year,
right?
And that was for the year. Any flights that I went on in certain countries, like I would have to take out an extra one if I was coming to the States or anything like that. But it does, like, you think you don't need it, and then that one time it happens that you will need it. So your best bet is just it's always funny because it's like, no, I'm not paying that kind of money for insurance. And you're like, you just paid £800 for a flight and you're not going to pay £3 for a fucking insurance? What the fuck is wrong with you? It's like we started our supermarkets, they brought in a bag charge where because we used the plastic bags, the government implemented that you had to pay 5p for a bag, and people would turn up and complain. Now, the money didn't go to the shops, it went to charity.
Right.
It was a government incentive thing that the money went to charity.
Mm-hmm.
People would complain about having to spend 5p, 10p, 20p on 3, 4, 5 bags. And you're like, you've just done your month shop at £500 and you're going to bitch because you're having to pay an extra 50p so that you can carry your shit. Do you know what? Lift everything by your fucking horns and carry it to fucking.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Simple. You're like, what are you moaning about? Like, how can you moan when you literally have to then pay an extra 0.2%?
Yeah,
in what you've just paid.
People in money, man. People in money are funky. Like, like I said, I'm one of those dads. Like, I'll pay for the insurance because like I don't know, you know. So whatever. I pay $15 a month. Like I think it's like 15 for like total device protection for all the devices on my phone. And like I was talking to somebody and they're like, "Oh, I don't got insurance. I'll just get a new phone." Okay, I don't got $1,200 laying around. You know, this happened and they sent me a phone instantly. It was it happened on Saturday or Sunday. It was Sunday, and the phone was here on Monday. Like, I don't have to pay for it. It's like a $400 phone that I didn't have to fork over. It cost me $10 for a deductible. It's like I paid $10 and they sent my daughter a new phone. Like
What we'll also say is back up your tech.
Yeah.
Like, so,
100%.
Like, that's why I absolutely love. I've got the Pixel. I've went with Google for the last 4 years. I got the Pixel 1 and now I've got the Pixel 3. I don't even buy the phone. Like, I just buy it outright from a local fucking. We have a shop and it's called Game. Basically, it's where you get your video games.
Right.
But they've also started doing it. They'll buy your old phones, refurbish them, and sell them again. That's how I do it because my phones go through a lot of fucking shit. I pass it to customers and all that need to sign for stuff. I don't need something that's a grand worth. If it phones and it texts, I'm happy. So it's like I'll pay £200-300 for my phone. Just that's it, and that will do me 4 or 5 years. Like,
yeah,
that's just how it is. But I back everything up, and because I've got the Google, everything from the computer is through Google Drive.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that
everything
actually.
Can get transferred straight away. Like, everything gets synced and backed up, and I can access it to it and then just export it to any new phone that I get with Google.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that because
perfect.
I'm due for an upgrade. I'm due for an upgrade, and I have a Galaxy S8 Plus. I got the old Galaxy, and when the Pixels came out, I was like, "Ooh, I'm tempted," but I never knew anyone that had one, and I'm like, because I do everything from here. I like do stream chat from here. I do Twitter for networking. I do like I wrote the podcast document on this thing the other day. Like I do everything on this, so it's like having insurance on this is key, and then having that backup because I sync everything to Google on this. Everything is synced through Google on this, but
yeah.
I didn't know that the Pixel was like automatically like it doesn't sync automatically.
Oh yeah,
like,
just
I have to go manually sync everything.
No, this just does it. It's even if I take a photo on my phone, I can go into my Google Photos on my browser. I can go into my desktop and I can load up all my photos from anywhere in the world. I
Oh,
can give
nice.
you my login details and you can load up my photos and take shit that you want.
Nice.
It's that level that you can find me. Plus, the thing that made me get it is people can say whatever they want, but personally, you're not going to beat the camera on that phone. You've seen the shit I post up. That's for my Google phone. That is nothing special. It's nothing fancy. It's all from that phone.
Right.
And
it's
it's not even an app. It's the camera itself. It's just the basic camera app, and it's just their own thing that I use to take the pictures. So it's like I think it's fantastic. It's got to the point where when I was doing my trip down to England and stuff like that, and I was away for a couple of days, I actually charged up my old Pixel 1, wiped it, and purely used it to record and take pictures on my travel.
Nice.
Just so that I had something at the back, because even the original Pixel, the camera is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's good shit for sure, for sure. All right, buddy, let's hit your ramble. Seeing as how we kind of trailed off on my ramble there. So your
Well,
ramble
my
this week.
ramble is a bit different. It's definitely different. The only reason I don't know why it came into my head. I think it was because I've been missing my TV show. I don't do TV and movies. Not
Right.
that I don't like it. It's just I do not have the time and the patience to watch it
Neither do I.
because I've got ADHD. It's like I can't just sit and watch something for a prolonged period of time. Like it takes me 3 days to watch a movie, and I'll watch movie in half-an-hour increments. It's
Mm.
just how it is. My main way of watching things is YouTube. YouTube and Spotify is what I use. I'll just random 5 minute videos, 10 minute videos, and stuff. At the moment, I'm going through Critical Role, fucking fantastic.
Love Critical Role.
But with this is I've got certain programs that I will forever watch and binge. It's the only programs that just seem to keep my attention, and one of it, which is, I wouldn't say it's a touchy subject considering what we've been talking about this episode so far.
Yeah, right.
But it's one of my favourite shows is Ghost Adventures.
Okay.
And it's the paranormal world that is what I'm wanting to not so much discuss and kind of explain, because even me, I've not got that much. Although I will say I found and have signed up for a investigating course
Nice.
online. It's a 20 to 30 hour course with all different learning techniques and stuff like that. And at the end of it, if I pass the test, I get my certificate as a professional ghost investigator.
Oh, we're definitely going over to Scotland on a ghost hunt. We'll film that shit. We'll film that shit for a podcast.
I'll be a professional, so I'll be allowed.
Exactly. We mark it down. We're going to Stonehenge, and we're going. Where else are we going? Where's a good Scottish thing to go to? We'll go to Hadrian's Wall and shit.
In Edinburgh.
Ooh,
go to the Edinburgh dungeons.
Nice.
They're proper haunted.
Proper haunted.
But
I'm in.
The way I was saying is it was less about me explaining stuff, and it was more putting out, do you believe in it? Not necessarily just the paranormal of ghosts, not necessarily like say that UFOs, because we already know they're real anyway.
Hell yeah.
But it's the ghosts. Like, do you have any experience? Do you have any stories? But what is your take on the paranormal world and the kind of science and stuff that is slowly seem to be getting a bit more traction?
Okay. So are you asking me, or are you gonna explain first?
I'm asking you.
Oh, bro, that shit's real as fuck, bro. I got stories for days on paranormal. Like, trust me, I believe in ghosts. Like, 100% paranormal. Like, not every paranormal thing is like I think is legitimate, but there's definitely entities and energies and otherworldly events that happen, because I've hand to the gods and hand on my balls. There have been experiences, bro.
Yeah.
One, when we moved into the new house that we're in for the last couple of years, every time, like, until we got the dog, figure this one out. Every night, everybody would go to bed, and I would stream, and I would work late before I moved to first shift. After I wrapped everything up, I would turn the lights off, and I would round the corner to go to the stairs, and instantly I would have to run up the stairs because I thought something was going to kill me. Like I felt something running behind me, like some vicious, mean-spirited entity chased me up the stairs trying to kill me. In this house.
Fairness though, is that not pretty much everybody?
No.
I mean, I would turn off the light down the stair and sprint like a bitch and get up to the next light, because it's even when you're sitting there, I'm sleeping in my bed, so I'll go, oh, it's too hot, and I'll put my foot out, and then go, oh no, that demon under my bed will get my foot, and it gets tucked straight back under.
Bro, you could feel it, like the air in the you could feel the tension. Like the minute the light goes off and I turn the corner, or I make for the stairs, it just felt like just a malevolent sort of just coming at me, and I'd haul Jones up the stairs. Once I hit the top landing, once I hit the top of the stairs, it went away. The lights weren't on. It was still dark as fuck. but it went away. Now, here's the thing. The minute we got Knicks, that shit don't happen no more. That shit don't happen no more. Because I'll turn out the lights. Nix will be standing right next to me, and I'll say, all right, time for bed. She'll run up the stairs to the first landing, and she'll sit down and watch as I walk up. We've had Nix a year and a half. I haven't been chased up the stairs in a year and a half. I haven't had something trying to eat my ass like the Bear and the Revenant in like a year and a half. So yeah, I've had experiences there. Now, another experience I had when I was a teenager, and we were living in a place called Ford River in Upper Michigan. We were living in this double wide trailer out in the middle of nowhere. Okay. The only thing around us was like a power sports store and the bar where my mom worked and the creek. And then down the road was this old ass cemetery. And I love cemeteries. I love being in cemeteries. I love hanging out in cemeteries. I think they're peaceful. I think there's something about a cemetery that I enjoy. And I'm not like, you know me, I'm not the most gothic, morbid kind of guy, but like just hanging out in the cemetery is chill. Like I'm cool, right? So one day, I'm hanging out in the cemetery, hand to God, hand on my balls, like I said, hanging out in the cemetery, and this little girl comes, I'm just sitting on a headstone, writing in my journal, because I used to write stories and stuff when I was younger. Now I'm too fucking busy, but I was be writing a story, and this little girl comes walking up, little blonde girl with a ball, and she kind of stops and she goes, "Hi," and I'm like, "Hi, what's going on?" She goes, "Nothing." She kind of cocks her head and she goes, "Why do you like it here?" And I was like, "It's peaceful, I like it, it's away from the craziness and whatnot." And she kind of got this look on her face. She's like, "Huh, that makes sense." And I was like, "Why?" And she goes, "It's because you belong here." And then she just laughed to herself and started trotting along with the ball, skipping away, just do, right? And when I looked at her, the sun was coming down, and I could see through the bitch. My ass got off the gravestone, ran home, and was like, I'm going to go hide in my closet for about 20 minutes because that, hand of the gods, hand of my balls. True story. Holy fuck. Yeah, dude. So, yeah, you want to talk about ghosts and 100% I'm a believer, bro. Believer.
I think it's definitely a topic where I'm a believer of sorts to the extent of I can admit or accept when I think something can be explained. My main thing of it is you have explainable and unexplainable. Whereas like something can happen. Like I've put a few documents in PDFs and stuff like that I will attach to the YouTube and the Spotify and stuff like that if you want further reading kind of thing. But the way I kind of think it of there is way to explain certain things that happen. These PDFs kind of put into the science and stuff like that as to why your brain might have seen something or it might think something and stuff like that. So there is things that you can explain. So that is one thing that I really like about Ghost Adventures program is that so many times they'll like something will happen, like a door will open or a window will blow shut or stuff like that. And they go and investigate it and try and debunk it. And a lot of the times they will go, "Oh, what's happened is the winds blew this part and this bit fell against it and it's caused the bang and it's flung the door shut. So that was not a ghost. It was just something that happened." So that's where I kind of put my thing is there's things that can be explained, but there is still a lot of things that can't be explained. So it's a topic I've always liked discussing because so many people just don't want to get the time of day, and it's never a good debate that you get to have. It's just you're just being stupid. So my story that kind of got me, Simon, was it was a good few years ago. It was when I started working at my first job as a delivery driver, and I used to the area that I used to work in. it was, I mean, it's hard not, and you've got Glasgow, you've got like the main cities, but dotted around the major cities, you've got the smaller kind of towns and villages and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would work just north outside Glasgow. And I would have to go between probably about 5 or 6 of these little towns and villages. And there was this one street, and it was like a national speed limit country road.
Mm-hmm.
There was fields on either side. There was the river Forth that went through it, kind of thing. And it linked up to the little towns. It was maybe a mile and a half. Wasn't that long of a road. And I've been up and down this road plenty of times, to the point where I can see and know where cars are going to be coming from and all that kind of stuff. And I can literally get right along it, just whizzing through, racing lines and everything kind of thing. But this one particular time, I was driving along, just minding my own business, away to do a delivery. And as I was driving along this road, this guy stepped out in front of the van, maybe 20 feet. Now, at this point, I'm going 50 miles per hour. Like, I'm going the speed limit of the road.
Okay.
In a van. And this guy, 20 feet in front of me, stepped out in front of the van and turned and looked at me. Not face on. He was still, like, as if walking. And it was as if he'd stepped out and then looked to see the van coming. I flung everything into the brakes, handbrake, everything to try and stop. And I went right, I just fucking scudded the guy. Like, I went through that fucker and obliterated him.
Right.
And I went into full panic. And I got out the van, and there was nothing. There was no damage on the van. There was no blood. There was no body. There was no nothing.
There was shit in your pants, though.
And it was that kind of way. It took me a bit to kind of get over what had just happened. And it wasn't until I'd got back to the shop, and on our vans we had telematics and stuff like that kind of registered your speed, your cornering, your braking. And if you harsh braked, it would flag up in the store as if it's like there's been an accident and that kind of stuff. So when I got back to the store, the immediate thing was, what happened? This is fucking alarm bells and all that kind of stuff were going on. And I explained what had happened. And they kind of just like, it's probably just a shadow or something like that. But to me, it was fields on either side with the odd tree, which could have been the shadow. But I shit you not, this figure was so close and so detailed, I could see the whites of his eyes. Like, that is how detailed this figure was.
Yeah.
And it was about 2 weeks later, I was doing a delivery in one of the other little, the village at the other end of it. And I was sitting talking, and we were just sitting it was a chap that he used to get his delivery on a Friday just before my lunch, because I would do his delivery last, and then I would spend my lunch just sitting talking. He was an older chap that didn't really have family or anything like that. So it was one of those ones that I think he just wanted a chat. And I was happy enough just to spend our lunch chatting away, having my sandwich, and just giving him the company. And we got talking, and I was talking to him, and I was like, oh, yeah, and I explained to him what had happened, or what I thought had happened. And then I was telling him about how, when I went back to the shop and trying to explain that it was just shadow and all that kind of stuff. And that was the moment that told me that back in 1996, now this was 2013, 2014. So 18 years prior, 3 kids, not kids, but like 17, 18.
Yeah, kids.
Were driving in their car along this road during one of the storms, lost control, went through the guardrail into the river, and their bodies weren't discovered.
Whoa.
Because what had happened is the police suspect that when the car was still there, it was on its roof under the water, because the river wasn't that deep, but it was all underwater.
Right.
But the doors were open. So what they suspected happened is they'd fought to get out, but as they managed to finally get out, it was too late for them to then get out. So the river's then taking them
Mm-hmm.
further down because of the storm.
Right.
And what the chap said was, I was not the first person to have seen a figure or a person or something walk by that exact location. And the kind of folklore is that it's one of the boys trying to get help, and that was why they step out and look at the driver or the van or anything like that. It's because they're coming out to get help.
Right.
And so, like, even talking about it, like, the goosebumps are running right
Oh
up and
yeah,
down
me
me.
too. I got it. Yeah, I got
Um,
him.
and that's just like even discussing it, and it was just the fact of how vivid and detailed everything was, and it was just the way, because I ended up looking it up in that, and everything he said was there's news stories and stuff like that from when it happened, and that was the moment where I went, nothing will ever change my mind on whether or not it's true or they exist, because something happened that day and it's completely changed my fucking existence.
Well, yeah, and like you look at it from a cultural perspective. Stories of paranormal activity and ghost stories and things like that have existed since humankind.
Yeah.
Like literally, people have experienced the supernatural in multitude of ways that have been documented in culture after year after century. So I mean, to come out and say, well, paranormal activity or ghosts don't exist, and just dismiss it out of hand, dismisses 2,000 years and more of human experience of supernatural events. Now, some of them I will give credit are more sensationalized and things like that, but I think from, like I said, my own personal experience, that little girl in the graveyard, dude, that was legit. Like, she just disappeared into the setting sun, man. I was like, whoa. And then having to run up the stairs because I thought something was trying to kill me. Like, I've had experiences where, like, I've been walking at night and you'll hear, and you'll turn around and nothing's there, but you fucking knew something was there. Or like, I had an experience when I was camping and I went to go pee in the dark, 100%. I'm walking back from pissing down the trail and I get hit, just get whaled mid chest, get ass over tea kettle into the ground, get up, flashlight, nothing there, right? Look at myself, my shirt's torn, I got claw marks on my chest. Get up and go back to the tent, go wake up in the morning, no animal prints, no tree, no nothing, but yet I got knocked on my ass and my shirt's ripped.
Yeah.
Come on, like anecdotally, there's shit there. Like, I mean, even if we don't have like hard proof on a lot of this stuff, there's something to be
Yeah.
said from experiential knowledge, experiential evidence, and anecdotal evidence that something's going on. You can't dismiss it
Yeah.
out of hand. Like, look at, like, if you've been anywhere where like a tragedy has happened or like a gruesome murder, like the vibe is different. Like, um, go to like Auschwitz and tell me that the ghosts of there ain't walking around. Tell You can't tell me if you go to Auschwitz that there ain't ghosts walking around. Like, you will feel something.
Yeah.
Go to
I think
Gettysburg
that's it.
here.
Yeah. I think that's it. It's like, as you say, you can't kind of, if you, it's hard for anybody to be able to completely debunk it. Like, to turn around and just completely say it doesn't exist is, you're just doing a disservice to anything, because you're so close minded. So like, as I'd said, I'll happily admit when some things you see on shows and videos and you're like that, that's just stupid. Like that's
Right.
just somebody trying to time it. But there's a small amount of times where you see something and you go, there's no way to explain how that has happened. Like, even when they bring in scientific experts to review the footage, review the photos to see if they're doctored in any way and all that, and even they turn out and go, this has been altered in any way, this is a legit photo. And it's like, how can you then try and claim that this doesn't have substance?
Yeah.
Like, how can you just outright deny anything of it when, again, like I said earlier, unless you have done research, got information, and educated yourself on it, your opinion is just yours,
Yep.
but everybody's opinion is literally being shit to anybody else. Like that's the joy of an opinion. This is yours. The only person that has to care about it is you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like so, like I completely understand and accept other people's opinions on it, but it is one of those you cannot outright deny nor deny that it happens or isn't. Like, I'm not sitting here saying ghosts exist,
Right.
like, definitively, because there is still so many parameters that we don't know could
Mm-hmm.
have caused whatever happened to me, whatever happened to you,
Yeah.
some psychological thing that we've not uncovered in our brains yet.
Facts.
Like, that's fair enough, but to be able to just outright claim yes or no, just it just makes me think you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and whatever debate we have is meaningless. And I'm no for it. I'm no interested in it.
Yeah, there's something to be said for a healthy dose of skepticism, but then, like, to be 100% like convinced that nothing is there, it's just another version of ignorance and closed-mindedness, especially when, like we said, you have decades and centuries of written, recorded,
Yeah.
and talked about, like, experiences, because people's experiences are what they are, and until we develop the technology where we can experience what somebody else experienced in that moment with that sensory input, that the stimuli, everything, you can't say whether the dude on the road, I can't tell you that you didn't see the dude, and you can't
Yeah.
tell me that someone wasn't trying to eat my ass when I was running up the stairs.
No, exactly. But again, it's one of those ones that, like when you'd said that, and I kind of had the kind of jokey rebuttal of, well, when you're sitting in your bed, you think me. But again, that isn't in a discussion or a debate. I wouldn't say that's a case of me just completely saying that you're timing,
Right.
because again, as you'd said, I can't tell you that you
Mm,
were wrong or right. So
yeah.
I can't tell you what you felt, what you experienced, or anything like that. But it's a healthy way to kind of think that it's the way this podcast and the idea of this podcast is what I wanted, is that even with your opinion, your belief, you should still be able to see the other side
Yep.
and the reasons as to why the other person may think it. And that's how this idea is supposed to be. And that I came up with this, but I was the first one to try and debunk your story. And that's the how the healthy conversation
Right.
should be, is that you can have these kind of discussions. And it just seems like such a major, like you said, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, there's documented stories and evidence and stuff like that that suggests that there is something paranormal out there.
Oh yeah.
We still don't quite have it down, but there's something, and that's enough for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely something there. Well, we got about 30, 45 minutes. We got to blitz through some stuff and finish up with the happy ending. We appreciate you guys hanging out. Hopefully you've been interested in the conversation. The way we do the back half of the podcast is sometimes we do game releases. We only have 2 to talk about this week. We got a little bit of some culture shock, and then we're going to wrap it up with the happy ending. We'll probably be about 45 minutes. That's what we usually tend to do, about 2:45.
Yeah.
So let's roll into the game releases. I only put 2 on the list this week because you put a bunch on last week, and then I only found 2 that really spoke to me. The first one on the list is Evil Genius 2: World Domination for PC. Are you familiar with the Evil Genius franchise?
Yeah, the 2 that you've put down, I don't think I've ever heard of.
Okay. Evil Genius was a game that came out in, I believe, the early 2000s. And it was a strategy base builder game where you were a supervillain. And you had to build your base, set traps, hire henchmen, and try to kill the heroes and take over the world. Kind of like Overlord, if you're familiar with that game, where you're like the evil demon lord who builds. Yeah. Similar concept. But this kind of had like this, it had a bunch of like sci-fi and supernatural elements to it, where like you could have robot minions, or you could build like pit traps, and you could have laser grids. Well, they're coming out with a sequel, World Domination, baby. Updated graphics, better base building mechanics. You can customize your henchmen. It looks really fun. I mean, I played the shit out of the original Evil Genius. It's one of my all-time favorite strategy games, and Evil Genius 2 looks to continue that legacy with way out there, just stupid, like easily escapable death traps, sharks with laser beams on their heads kind of shit. And it looks like it's a hell of a good time, so I'm definitely going to be checking that out. I'm going to wait for the reviews, though, because Evil Genius had a lot of like janky mechanics. I'm hoping they can clean that stuff up, but if it has any amount of fun factor like the original Evil Genius, I'll definitely be in. It's something that like it's nostalgia for me, and who doesn't like being the bad guy every once in a while?
Yeah, well, I've just pulled up the website for it just to have a kind of, and be honest, like it looks like a game I might be able to get into. It does seem to have that feel of. It seems to have the kind of graphics of like your Sims sort of park, like pretty much what you'd said.
Right.
But I do kind of like the look of the game.
It is stylized for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I do also like the fact that if you pre-order now, you're saving 10%.
And don't pre-order games.
Not
Wait for the
an ad.
reviews. Wait for the reviews.
But yeah, no, it actually does look. I mean, don't get me wrong, they've already sold out their collector's edition.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there is a fan base for it. So yeah, for sure.
Oh, they have a Trojan horse as a bonus item. That's it. I'm sold. That's it. That's all the review I need.
There it is, folks.
Trojan horse.
There's your endorsement, folks. The other game I put on the list is Deathloop. Now, this is being done by Bethesda and Arcane Studios. Now, Arcane Studios, for those of you that are in the gaming world, did, let's say it with me, Dishonored and Dishonored 2. Now, have you played Dishonored, Chris?
I have not, but I do know of the game.
Those are some killer fucking games, man. Arcane Studios. They also did Prey, the new Prey, which is a game where, yeah. So, if Arcane puts a game out, you know it's going to be on my radar, because Arcane Studios is amazing. Now, the thing with Deathloop is, and I'm not completely 100% like, I don't know everything about it, but the concept is you are an assassin, and you have to kill these certain targets in a certain amount of time. But the twist is, there's another assassin hunting you, and you die, the loop starts over all over. So it's like Groundhog's Day meets, any type assassin genre film. And it's got that Arcane Studios stylized 70s, kind of like 70s, 80s kind of graphical animation with like powers and cool like music. And it's just very stylized, very cool. And the concept of that asymmetrical, I'm hunting the hunter who's hunting these targets, and if I kill him, I win, but if he kills his targets, he wins. I want to see how they pull that off. The trailers look
Yeah.
great. The mechanics look sound. Arcane's got a great pedigree. But can you do it?
Yeah. Well, that's I've just put up the website of that one, and I was just looking. The little description bit here that they've got is Deathloop transports you to the mysterious island of Black Reef, where an eternal struggle between two extraordinary assassins will determine the island's future. It's Colt, you must find a way to put an end to the time loop, trapping the island in an endless cycle, all while being hunted by the island's inhabitants.
Yep.
Using your powerful weapons and abilities, you'll need to take out 8 key targets across the stunning yet chaotic island before the day resets in order to break the loop once and for all.
Yep.
But lurking in the shadows is rival assassin Juliana, whose sole mission is to take Colt out and keep the loop going. Learn
Yep.
from each cycle, try new path approaches, and break the loop. That genuinely does sound pretty sweet, and the fact that it's got PlayStation 5 there
Yep.
might just be something I'm gonna have to look into.
It's got that roguelite vibe too. It's got that roguelike element that I love to play because it's like learn from every death, get better, get stronger, figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah, it's definitely piqued my fancy when the trailer debuted. I was like, ooh. But yeah,
The funny thing is my mind immediately just goes to The Incredibles, of
yes.
where it develops the robot that learns from each superhero,
Yep.
and they keep developing and learning the traits until they kill each superhero. Like
Yep.
that's just where my mind went, so you can tell what age I am.
Yeah. 5. But yeah, those two games I think they're vastly different, but they're vastly intriguing in different ways, and I'm excited to
Yeah.
see how they play out. I think it'll be. I think for those two games, I think those will be two games that I'll either end up streaming or playing, or definitely recommending on my list of. You should definitely check these out because they have something unique. Even if they're not good, as long as they're unique and interesting, I would definitely recommend them because I do that a lot with um, like I'll play bad games, but if there's a good hook to it or a unique spin on it, I'll give it a
Yeah.
go. I'll recommend it.
The other things I was just going to ask is Deathloop states that it's coming out May 21st, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a release date for Evil Genius 2?
March
Have they
31st, I
released
believe. March
March
31st.
31st?
Don't quote me. I think that's what it was off the top of my head as what I saw. I put it on there because it was in the March release list. So probably end of March
Right.
for that one. But yeah, and Evil Genius 2 looks like it can run on a potato. So I mean the requirements for a computer don't look that high on it. From what I remember, like I said, I didn't memorize it, but it looks like it could run on a potato because Evil Genius 1 you could run it on my phone nowadays. So but yeah, man, I think those two games will be interesting to watch and see how they develop. So, but with that being said, let's move on to some culture shock where we talk about growing up a little bit. Because over the last couple weeks, we've kind of dipped into our past a little bit and noticed some similarities and some differences. So, you put this one on you put the childhood on the culture shock. So, why don't you take the lead on this one?
Yeah, well, similar to the kind of the paranormal topic, this was more a kind of discussion to learn, like from on my side anyway, because um, with the amount of kind of shocks to the culture that it is when we discuss about like kind of like common courtesy or food or anything like that, um, upbringings in childhood, because it's like in previous topics, especially like even today, you kind of mentioned how your upbringing was if you done something wrong, you got a whipping. That was how it was.
Oh yeah.
Whereas I don't think I ever got anything like that here. I can remember one time my sister got her arse scalped every step up the stairs because she crossed the main, like down at the bottom of the hill. There's like a dual carriageway, so it's
Mm.
like three lanes, and she crossed over that when she was young,
Ooh.
like safely, like she done it there, but she didn't tell that she had told my parents that our friend's mum was taking them down, and our friend told their mum that my mum was taking them down, and they
Oh
went down
no.
without adult supervision, and it was just at the off chance that my dad was coming home that time and seen it. So that was the only kind of time that I could remember any kind of that level of punishment. But it was just an interesting kind of concept to kind of see like what we see in the movies and what happens in real, two very different things. Like when you watch the movies of the American kind of upbringing, it's like the kids out in the street with their rollerblades playing hockey and they're playing like baseball and stuff like that. Whereas for us here, that was kind of like similar, but it was more like we were out playing football or we were playing hide and seek, but it was like hide and seek with like 20 people. We had other kind of games, like there was one game where it was you kind of split your into two teams and it was called Kiss Cuddle Torture, in which one team would be running and one team would be catching, and the catching team would determine A, B, or C is kiss, cuddle, or torture. When you caught someone from the running team, you would ask them A, B, or C. Whatever letter they picked is what you got. But so if torture was C and they picked C, you would give them a hit.
Mm-hmm.
If it was cuddle, you'd cuddle. If you think, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's like that. When we were younger, it was a case of if it was another boy, no matter what letter he picked, he was getting punched.
Right.
So like, next to a girl getting taught, and they would go, oh, see, and they would get a kiss. But as soon as that boy said see, he was getting hit. That was it.
Right.
But it worked the same way as when you were chasing and you caught a lassie. No matter if you fancied the lassie, it was always kiss. If you didn't fancy the lassie, it was always cuddle.
Because you give her a cuddles a hug, right?
And then run away, kind of thing. So it was like those kind of games and kind of upbringings that we had. I mean, it's different now because like when I was younger, I was out from you went to school, you came home from school at 3:00, 3:20, I was out playing. And you came in for your dinner and went straight back out. And then you never came in until dark.
Nope.
That was it. Whereas now, kids are more, I mean, the last year, kids have had to be in because you can't go anywhere. But
Right.
even before then, kids were inside most of the time. They don't really go outside and enjoy the mud. But I was just interested to hear what the kind of childhood upbringing actual was in America and not the movie America, unless that is what it actually was, that everybody just hung about and played hockey.
Well, I mean, for a large extent, that is the quintessential American upbringing. You go to school, you come home, you go do sports, and you hang out with your boys, and if you're an athlete. But if you're not like an athlete or a jock, a lot of the upbringing is, for me, it was come home, do my chores, do my homework, and then bam, out the door, like just disappear. And then ride your bike, ride your skateboard, ride your rollerblades, go to the local shop, tease the shop owner, just kind of razz them a little bit. Maybe go run at the school, play some, some street hockey, play some football. Or like when I lived up north in the woods, it was, go to school and then, go run in the woods, play like freeze tag or army men or, what was the one game? Oh God, there was a game like hide and seek, but like almost like kiss cuddle torture. We didn't have that. We had like if you caught somebody, you would literally drag them back to your base, and like the person would have to like save them, and in order to save them, they would either have to like give them a hug or like attack one of the, like if they couldn't hug or tag the person they were trying to save, they would have to like hug or attack the person that captured them, kind of like to gross them out or wake them out. Be like, ugh! Or like if, like you said, if you fancied the girl and you were trying to rescue the maiden, you gave her the smooch and she was free. if they allowed it, you know, I mean, back then, let's be honest, back when I grew up in the early 80s, the 80s and the early 90s, like consent wasn't a thing for us. Like it wasn't like it is now. Like you didn't walk up and like grab some chick by her, you know, lower area and, or anything when we were younger, but like if I liked a girl and she liked me back, I didn't have to be like, are you okay if I kiss you on the cheek? It was no, you
I
like
think it was back then. It was the innocence was still
yes,
there as
exactly.
a child.
Yep.
Like there wasn't any malice, and like even now, most of the time, it's the innocence of a child.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think when you're talking about the consent and stuff like that, it's adults that should know better.
Yes, exactly.
Like that's where that kind of stems.
But yeah, back
I
when
didn't mean anything.
back when we were kids, man, we did all that shit. We climbed trees. We I did a lot of bad shit as a kid. I had a penchant for urban exploration. So a bunch of my buddies and I would go up in abandoned buildings and try and see what was there, or we'd try to get into the school after hours and try and sneak around. And you know, it was like that. Like we played those games. We played like Red Rover. We played kickball, soccer, or what you know as football was big. Football here. There was a game that I played a lot as a kid because I was very much involved in sports and martial arts as a kid. And one of the games I played in the parks was a game. Now before everybody has a fucking conniption fit, this is what it was called back in the day: Smear the Queer. Okay. Now what that was you get a football. Who's ever got the football runs their ass off, and everybody else tries to take their fucking head off and get the ball. Right? I don't know why it was called that. I don't know why it's called Smear the Queer or whatever, but it just was. It was what it was called when I grew up. Now it's like hit the runner or you know, dog pile or whatever they call it. But like that was one of my favorite games.
More appropriate.
yeah, highly more appropriate than what it was back then. But yeah, that was one of my favorite games. But then me personally as a kid, when I wasn't outside running around and I did my fair share, I trained a lot. I did martial arts since I was a little kid. Like I was always training, always reading, always writing, always climbing trees and always doing martial arts. So a lot of like the regular kid stuff I did, but not to the extent that I did martial arts and like exploration. So I did have sort of the typical American upbringing where I drank out of the hose and I rode my bike till dark. My mom had a rule: when the street lights came on, if your ass wasn't in the house, you're catching a whooping. Or if you didn't want to catch the whooping, that bitch was locking the door and you better find somewhere to sleep for the night.
Yeah, we kind of had a similar thing in that you were told when to come in, and there was always that fear where, because of how small, like I live in a little kind of housing estate, and it's that small, you could hear somebody shouting from one end to the other.
Oh, my mom could
kind
shout.
of thing. And we used to kind of play like round the corner in the kind of swing park and stuff like that. And like you're talking about that, if you weren't at home for 5 days, that you're locked out and that was it. This is where the culture kind of comes in. Is the fear that we would get is when you were in the park playing whatever, and another child would come around and go, "Your mum's been shouting on you.
Yep.
You knew you fucked up, and you better get your ass round that corner."
Oh yeah.
And like all the way round, you're trying to come up with every excuse as to why you weren't there or you didn't hear the first time and stuff like that. But it was because it's even in like adulthood. It used to be, or I would say adulthood, but your teenage years kind of. It was the equivalent of 12 missed calls from mum.
Yep.
And you went, fucked up. Oh no, that's it. My life is done.
Yeah, we had that too for sure.
But that was kind of like how we thought. And you were talking about the games. I mean, Red Rover, I'm pretty sure that's our equivalent to that is British Bulldogs, where it's like you would have two teams on either side, and somebody would get called, like a number, you had to number, and you think, and they had to try and run through.
Yep, exactly.
The other side, that was called British Bulldogs to us. I don't know why,
That's
but
such a
that
better
was
name.
how we'd that. But that was a game that was just
that got brutal. Yeah.
because that was the case where you were supposed to link hands
Yep.
to stop them. We were at the point where we were like, see that kind of like, you see it in like the olden days where it was like that you would grip.
Yep.
That was how we
Yeah.
would grip. And when
Grab by the
somebody
forearm.
came close, you were just swiping at the legs, make sure they went down, because if they went down, they were not running through you.
Yep.
And stuff. And the other game that I used to always love, and it was funny to play here, because we used to have a kind of, I say a small group, there was like 10, 15 years as the younger ones. And there was a pole round the corner. Like our estate, like I've got my wee cul-de-sac here. And if you go out the cul-de-sac and turn to the right, it goes to a roundabout.
Right.
Where there's a swing park in that. That was where we were allowed to play. Because after that, we were out of sight.
Right.
But if we got a good amount of people, like if you got like the older kids and stuff, like my brother and stuff like that, we were allowed to play, because we used to play hide and seek and sardines and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then when you got the older people to play, you could go full estate.
Oh,
which was the
you got
term
the
that
whole
went where you were
neighborhood.
allowed to go down the hill now.
Yeah, you got the
because
whole
more
neighborhood.
People, you needed more hiding places. But sardines was always a funny one, because it was always the same hiding spots that people would go. Like round the corner, there's this fence, and next to the fence sits like that, and this is the swing park,
Mhm.
and that's the street, and right next to the fence there's a pole, like just a light pole that sits in me. And what you used to do is, if you sat up against the fence and crouched down until the person had walked round this side, they couldn't see you.
Okay.
But what would end up happening is, because if you're playing sardines, and the point of sardines is one person hides, 20 people have to find you.
Oh, okay.
But they all split up, and if they find you, they have to join your hiding place.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had a
And
similar
it's
game.
the last person to find, because then you'd line up like a tin of sardines. That was what it was always there. And you would have like 19 people hiding behind this fence. But after about 5, it was just out in the open. Like there was no fence. So it was just a group of people just like lined up. And if you'd done it right, you would just look like a continuation of the fence. Like you would have people kind of head down, arms out, as if they were the top slat of a fence and that kind of stuff, just to try and make it look. And it was stuff like that. But we used to have, like, we were talking about brutal games. We used to have a game, and it was called Bloody Mary.
Okay.
Right? But to us, it was known as the White Witch.
Okay.
And what would happen is, it's weird explaining it, because it's such a fucked up game. You would have a group of yous, and you would pick one person that was going to be possessed by the White Witch. And you would stand in a circle with them in the middle. And similar to the kind of like you chant Bloody Mary 3 times and she appears in the mirror, this was a similar thing where you would go like White Witch, White Witch, White Witch, and there was like this whole like thing that you would not necessarily chant but just say as a fucking cult, basically.
Yeah, right.
And technically, once you'd done this, the person in the middle would be possessed by the White Witch, and the White Witch wanted blood. So as soon as they got possessed, you had to just bomb to fuck, because see if that person caught you, there was no rules.
Right.
It was a case that you would just get your absolute shit kicked to you, and the only way to get away is to hit them harder to get away. And that was the way it was. But you had like, it was as if like you always had it's a 15-minute time limit for when this is possessed and all that kind of stuff. So it completely took away the whole folklore of the White Witch, because like, he only gets possessed for 15 minutes now.
Right.
And that was what it was. And then you possess the next person.
Yeah.
But that was the nights where you used to only play that with the older kids, because they didn't want to play the fun little hide and seek. They wanted to kick some shit.
They wanted to beat the shit out of you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. But because it was always funny, because now that I'm thinking about it, I can't remember me ever getting possessed. It was always the older kids that got
Yeah,
possessed. It was
yeah,
always like my brother and his pals that got possessed to kick the shit out of us.
yeah.
So I'm
Because
going to
they're
have to bring that
assholes.
up to him tomorrow now as to why the fuck we never got to kick the shit out of them.
Yeah.
I'm bigger than them now. I can fucking take them.
Exactly. Yeah, like we had a ton of games, like just brutal games. Like I said, that game Smear the Queer, unfortunately, like dude, like you would specifically pick out the slowest motherfucker and give him the ball because and you would lead like I'm not the fastest dude, but like I can hit a motherfucker like football, like I can lay a shot in, double leg somebody, right? You would pick the slowest motherfucker and you literally throw the ball at him, and the minute he got it, 8, 10 people were like, blood in the water, fuck that dude up. And dude, the hits that this kid would take, just dude getting ass over tea kettle or getting like one dude coming with a flying double clothesline to the kids. Oh my god. I saw a kid get hit one time. He literally was running, didn't see it, blindside. Just full on fucking junior high level varsity linebacker just fucking obliterated this kid, right? Kid just hits the ground, fucking breaks his arm, right? And sure enough, like kid broke his arm. Everybody's like, "Oh, someone got hurt," blah blah blah, right? Kid was like, "Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine." He then grabbed the ball again, and us being dumbasses like, "Well, I guess he wants to go again." Just leveled the guy, and I'm like, ooh, looking back now, I'm like, oh. But yeah, we had like a game like the White Witch too. We had like Ghosts in the Graveyard where you had to do like fucked up shit to find people. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting childhood because like nowadays childhood has changed because of
Yeah,
technology.
they're
Like,
too busy
yeah,
shouting at somebody that's killed them, and I'm all for video games. Like
mm-hmm.
video games are like a great thing. You can learn from them and all that, if that's what you want to do. But I just don't get the toxicity, and I don't get the aggression. Like
No,
if
neither do
a
I.
game starts to annoy me, I turn it off. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not playing games to get annoyed. Like if the game's annoying, why I'm not going like I don't have enough time anyway. Why the fuck would I use it to be miserable?
Yeah, I don't get that either because I'm the same way. Like I tell my daughter, both of my daughters are avid. All my kids are avid gamers, and all of them have issues with games. And I tell them all, I'm like, hey, if you're gonna get mad at the game, change the game. And I
Yeah.
don't want to hear it. And they're like, but Dad, no, 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 no. But Dad, no. If I get to the point where I'm raging, I change the game. And they're like, you stream. I'm like, if the game pisses me off on stream, I change the game. You can't make that argument with me. No. Because I don't get it either. I don't get the aggression. I don't get the toxicity of it. Because what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Because like even at that, me and Titan played that. Is it Rogue One? No, Rogue One.
Rogue Company.
Rogue Company.
Yeah.
Right, it was the first time I played it. Literally, at 12 o'clock, I downloaded the game. At 12:05, I was doing the tutorial. At 12:15, I was in a game with Titan.
Right.
That was my existence of this fucking game. And we got put into a game where in our team there was two people that were clearly pals because they had fucking FB or TTV in their names and
Right.
stuff like that. And they spent the entire match shitting on me. Just constantly.
What a dick.
I had the in-game chat on. I didn't have my mic on, so I wasn't talking back to them as much. But it was like they were just constantly coming through. So, what you need to do is press start, go into the settings, and uninstall this game because you are dog shit. And they just kept on laying it and laying it. And me and Titan were fucking gutting ourselves. It was just so funny because like we're sitting there going like Titan's going on about how it's a nothing game, nobody gives a fuck about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you getting so antsy about this game that nobody cares about? And I'm just sitting there, I'm fucking and every now and again I'm clicking my mic open just as I'm laughing, just to piss them off that wee bit there. And halfway I ended the game. 0 kills, 0 assists, 0 damage, downed and killed about 40 times. I ended up just sending constantly, I would take the bomb and you would hear them screaming, drop the bomb, and I'd just fucking run into the enemy team and just die immediately so that our team would have to go in and get the bomb if they wanted to win the thing. And it was that kind of like, that was the level that we were just giggling away and things like how mad these boys were getting. And then the very next match, we got loaded in. They were on the opposite team. And immediately I was like, best fucking day ever. And that game, me and Titan fucking shit on. I think I got something like 12 kills.
Nice.
And 14 assists. Titan was getting like 24, 20. He was just sitting fucking sniping every time they ran by, just fucking headshot. And even though we couldn't hear them at this point, the solace that we had was that they're streaming. They've went on and shouting and bawling and getting me to install my game and all that. And then when they've seen us in the opposite team, they've told their stream, here we go, easy win. And then we shit on them. And you can tell just how pissed off they must have been having to show their stream them getting dog shit. And we're there. And the funniest thing is when the game started, I died the first, and they all started coming up and like teabagging and all that kind of stuff. So you knew that was the type of players they were.
Yeah.
But when we just turned it around, and it was that kind of way, we weren't even doing anything back.
Right, you weren't
at the end
dissing
of the day, that's just fucking stupid. Like, what does that accomplish in your life? Like, well done, you get nothing.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, but it was just that it was the knowledge that they've been telling their chat and gone on about how it's an easy win, and we just fucking went, don't fucking think so.
That's trolling at the best.
That's
I love it.
Favorite gaming moment that I've ever fucking had, and I've played Apex with Titan and Bill Bob, and I got a win.
Nice.
With 70 damage. They carried me to fuck. I got 70 damage. They had something like fucking 10 kills each and fucking laid everybody out.
They're badasses.
I'm sitting there going, I'm a winner too. Like, a win's a win. I got that dub.
On that note, let's go to the happy ending. That's great, dude. I love it. Trolling at the best. All right. I think I went first on happy ending last week, so why don't you go first on this one?
Yeah. Well, my one is one from down south in England, roundabout. It's just south of Manchester. It's in Telford, and it's a story about a 9-year-old boy.
Mm-hmm.
Him and his mum were out kind of jogging with their dog, and a car spooked the dog and ran under their feet, and the mum tripped and kind of landed badly, and she broke her wrist. They managed to get home, and the young boy Oakley got the mum and the dog into the house and stuff like that. He went to go and get the first aid kit, and when he came back, his mum had passed out.
Okay.
And the story that they kind of thing is he used his mum's thumbprint to unlock her phone in order to contact the emergency services.
Nice.
And was able to kind of go through everything and stuff like that. And they kind of go into like, the mum was he knows the code, but in that moment he couldn't remember it because you know yourself, in moments like that, your brain's like somebody tells you to count to 5 and you're like A7 W and that and then, but that's the thing, is he knew the address but not the postcode,
right?
But he managed to find the letter on the fridge and was able to kind of, this is sort of where we are and all that kind of stuff, and then went out and flagged down the ambulance. And the kind of story that I'd think me to it is, it's such a lovely story that even at 9 years old, the boy had the kind of mind to kind of know roughly what to do in that situation. That even though he was like in that kind of shocked moment of can't remember passcode and stuff like that, the kind of unimportant parts in that, he was able to kind of quickly problem solve into, well, I don't know the code right now, let's say me that. And it kind of spurred me on to the importance of making sure that your kids of most ages understand and are able to perform that. Like, nobody goes into kind of having kids with the belief that something will happen, that
Right.
they can't, that the child will have to be in that situation. But to me, it just kind of proves that you're never too young to be taught what to do in a scenario where mum or dad or your guardian takes ill.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to explain to them on how to contact the emergency services, get help, what to do, who to call, and stuff like that. And I think that's what this kind of, like, this is what I want to kind of touch on, especially with talking about kind of like childhood and stuff like that in this episode. It was kind of, this is where it comes full circle, is being able to trust the emergency services and knows these are the people that you have to contact when something like this happens, and know that their position is to help and save.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just it was a nice story to kind of come across, and it just kind of it filled me with not so much, not as like, I mean, happiness and stuff like that, that the story had a happy ending, but it kind of filled me with that sort of, the next generation's in good hands.
Yeah.
If this is what, like, there's some things that happen in the world right now where I kind of go, I don't think the humankind's going to survive much longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear stories like this where you go, do you know what? I think we might be all right.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it was. I think it was a great story. I breezed through it at work, and you're right. It's a great story because basically the kid, in a moment of crisis where his mom is unresponsive and whatnot, he knew how to get help. He knew how to get help.
Yeah.
He knew how to unlock her phone. He knew the passcode. But in a moment of panic, your brain doesn't, like, that lizard brain kicks in. You're like, oh my god, what do I
Yeah.
do? He was able to remember, hey, I can use mom's thumb. Like, knowing, like the kid smart enough to know how to use a thumbprint scanner. Like, back in the day,
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't have known how to use a thumbprint scanner. We didn't have them, but, like, would I have been able to do that? I don't know. But seeing
Plus, we
that,
used to get in the movies, like when you watch the kind of like James Bond movies where
mm-hmm,
it was the retina scans and all that,
yep,
that was in a far off, distant sci-fi kind
exactly,
of life,
yeah.
and here we are living in, it's your phone to unlock it.
Yeah, and the fact that the kid was able to keep his head too, being that young and
Yeah.
your mom's unresponsive, like a lot of kids would just lose their shit. Like my kids, I'm pretty confident that they would be able to respond in a crisis, except for one of them. My middle son, he's autistic. He's high functioning, but I mean, even he, I think, could handle it. But I think he would definitely have to overcome a lot more panic than the other kids would. And to see a 9-year-old kid be that resourceful in order to figure it out, to get his mom the help, it's great, and it does reaffirm that, okay, the generation isn't as doomed as we think it is.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
And another thing on like your kids and that kind of stuff, like you've said quite a few times that they've got kind of issues and stuff like
hmm,
that. What you have to remember is that in with your son's panicking that. So I think it's always good to put in the context that um, kids with, or just people in general that's got disabilities, autism, even other ailments and stuff like that. Because it was one of the kind of things sister about, she was struggling with depression and stuff like that, and she wasn't sure whether to take like medication and that.
hmm,
And the way I explained to her about it was, normal bodied people or normal minded people are going through life with challenges, people with disabilities or mental disabilities, physical disabilities, are going through the same life with a hand tied behind their back.
Yep.
Or in some cases, both hands tied behind their back.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those ones that you have to come to the context that what would you expect someone that's got both hands tied behind their back trying to do the same task as someone that's got the use of both their hands
Yeah, well,
in
I'm
that
sure he'd figure it.
situation?
I'm sure he'd be able to
So
figure it out, but there would
yeah,
definitely be a level of panic that the other kids wouldn't experience because he does have to work through that extra layer of stuff. Like because we have and I don't mean to cut you off. We do have in that story we have made a point to teach our kids that if something happens to me
yeah,
or mom, but from a perspective of how a crisis situation would unfold, I definitely feel like my middle kid would definitely have an extra level of challenge because not only does he have to process the panic, but then he
yeah,
has to try and find a way to make it make sense to him to look for that solution where
yeah,
um my oldest daughter, for example, who's been left alone for a long time, she lives with my ex-wife and she spends a lot of time alone. She'd come home from school, make herself dinner, stuff like that. I don't think she would have the level of panic that my middle son would have because it's just it's a different cognizant awareness where he would have to
yeah,
struggle and come up with it to eventually get there. She wouldn't. And the fact that a 9-year-old kid recognized that his mom was in danger and was able to figure out, okay, I don't know the passcode. He was able to deal with the panic of not knowing the passcode to go, okay, what can I do? Mom's thumb, put it on there. And I think that speaks volumes to the kids and to the kids' wherewithal and the parents' ability to maybe prep the kid for it. And I think it's great. I think more parents should take
definitely.
the time to make sure their kids are up to date on emergency procedures. Like we have a
Yeah,
fire plan, we have a break-in plan if someone breaks in, like we have all that stuff. And to see that it's not just us is a reassuring thing for me as a parent.
yeah. Oh, definitely. And I mean, I'm not got any kids or anything like that. I've got two nephews. But even at that, it for me, it's definitely something that if I ever do have kids, it's something that I would like to have in place is that contingency plan of in this scenario, this is because if anything's taught us much of the last couple of years is that certain people aren't going to be there at all times, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to step up when needed.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of a young child doing that. Is just stepping up and doing what needed to be done, and it does give me a lot of hope for future generations that it isn't all lost that you might think when you look at the society
Yep.
and the media that will get better.
Yeah, kudos to that kid, man. He probably
Yeah.
saved his mom, so good on him. It's a great story. Now, we're a little past the 2:45. Do you want to call it here, or do you want to do one more
No,
story?
no, no. I definitely want to talk about your
All right.
happy
Well,
ending because it's such a good story.
I know we're running a little late than normal, so yeah, my happy ending is there was it happened in Kerala, India, I believe it how it's pronounced. Basically, the story is the headline reads: "Photo of paralyzed man cleaning plastic from Indian river goes viral, and he showered with gifts to better his life." Now, basically, the story breaks down like this: there's an older gentleman who is paralyzed from, I believe it was polio,
Yeah,
who was paralyzed from the waist down due to polio, who lives in a riverside shack, who every day gets in his little boat, drags himself down to the riverside, hoists himself up into the boat because he figured out a way to do it, and then paddles up and down the river, pulling plastic refuse out of the river and turning it in at the end of the day for a little bit of money. And he averages, it says 12 RS, which is the denomination of India, which equates to 17 cents.
yeah.
He does all of this heavy work, and the photos, like, his boat is full of plastic. Like, it's not a small canoe. It's a long ass canoe, and it's filled. And he does all of that for 17 cents. And the article goes on to say it's enough for a meal, and that's satisfying enough for him to know he's helping the environment. What? Then the story is some young dude had a rented camera. You know, he was just, you know, a passion for photography. He'd rented a camera, a young engineer, managed to snap a photo of our protagonist who's hauling plastic out of the river. He uploads that shit to Instagram or whatever social. I don't remember. I don't know if it was Instagram or not. What is it? Was it Instagram? He uploaded a story to Pro Media Facebook page. So he uploads it to a media page, and they start sharing it. And this dude who's got polio then starts to receive all these gifts, and his story gets shared around the world. And now, like, he's got a new motorboat. He was given a new motorboat. The prime minister of India, of that area of India, is talking about doing some stuff to fix up his riverside shack that was damaged in a storm. And he's even now, a Bangalore-based company is making him a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Like, this story hits on me for so many levels because, one, it's about making the environment better from human waste.
Yeah.
Two, it's about some dude just going out there every day, no publicity, no nothing. Didn't do it for the memes or the Instagrams. Just every day out there picking plastic out the river, cashing it in, getting his chow on afterwards, and going back to his home. And then some young engineering kid happens in the right place, snaps it up, shares it on social media, and it changes this dude's life. Like, all too often, we see the negative impacts of social media on our lives.
Yeah. And
this story actually shows the real true power of social media when it's used for good and not evil, for lack of a better turn of phrase. That this guy's life is now going to improve significantly. His quality of life is going to go much better. Will he be happier? I don't know. That's up to him to determine. But at least from what all appears is happening, he'll have an easier, more enjoyable life from now. And the fact that this engineering student did it just to, you know, because he's got a passion for photography and he wanted to share this guy's story. I mean, we need more of that. We need so much more of that. We need these unsung heroes who do this shit just because it's the right thing to do. They need to be raised up. This older gentleman who cleans the river, like, he should have been recognized. Not a guy like me who doesn't do anything but ramble on the internet doesn't deserve what I get, and I get plenty of shit. A guy like this, oh yeah, all day, son. Wheelchair, nice house, little motorboat. Give him everything. The dude wasn't doing it to make a name for himself, and neither was the kid.
It's a selfish act.
Yeah, I mean, it was so heartwarming because it's environmental, and it's improving somebody with a disability's quality of life. Like, come on, I'm a sucker for that shit.
Yeah, I think that's what I kind of like the most about it, is just the fact that it just goes to show you what can happen if people just come together for the good of the world.
Yes.
Like, if people just put their differences behind and celebrated and rewarded those that do the selfless kind act.
Yep.
Instead of being too busy trying to pull down people that don't, like, it's not so much that it's like, there's people that do bad things, they deserve the thing, but spending more time trying to pull down celebrities than trying to reward people that are just out there doing what they have to do to make ends meet. Like you said, it's he gets a meal at the end of it, it pays for his dinner.
Yep.
And you're like, that's somebody that just wants to live on this planet. Like that is just such a great story, and that's why I definitely wanted to make sure that this got put in, because
Yeah,
It really was. Just reading it and just having that kind of time to kind of just process it and think about it and just be like, he's like one of the most selfish people I've ever read about. Like for so many years, just without a care in the world, just cleaning up the local river
yeah,
to make ends meet. And here comes along someday and just that one random day, and his life's been completely changed. It's an amazing story.
yeah. And like the even the like there's a quote. There's like a quote that says the Indian Prime Minister himself, Narendra Modi. I'm slaughtered it. I apologize. Modi commented on Rajappan's efforts during his monthly radio address. I've seen news from Kerala which reminds us of our responsibilities, he said, telling his listeners the story. Imagine how highly he thinks. We must also take inspiration from him and contribute towards the cleanliness as far as possible. Like, dude,
Yeah.
like this dude probably did this for decades, and it took one like they've probably seen him go up and down the river for decades. And then one kid with a camera changed the entire world because he it was a hell of a photo op. And I've been in the local papers. I've been in photo ops for doing shit, you know, what I do. And and yeah, like the power of being a photo going somewhere just it does everything. And like why now? Why now? This dude's probably been doing this shit for decades. Why did it take so long for him to be recognized? I don't know. I
No,
don't care.
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, on some levels I care, but I'm more enthralled with the fact that finally this gentleman who's been cleaning up the garbage is finally going to have the way, you know, he's going to have a better life, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
But then and like I said, social media for so much of our time, especially me, because I'm on social media for streaming and everything we do with the podcast, and you are too. How many social media stories you see where it's like, oh, me too, or this person did that, or they're trying to like just hate tweet at people. It's like you have so much better things to do with your time. And then a story like this comes around, and you're like, well, social media, when done right, is a powerful tool for change. But yeah,
Definitely.
it's great, man. And I wish more people would do it. Like, I'm getting ready to do a move here in June to a more like better environment than out of. We're going to like a country. We're going to like the country outside the one of the bigger cities, and one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to is going out in the mountains and taking the kids out, showing them stuff, and that's definitely going to be part of our mountain adventures is just picking up the trash we see. Because stories
Yeah.
like this, like how could like after reading this story, what am I gonna do? Walk up a trail and see a plastic bottle and be like, no, because I'm automatically gonna think that dude in India is on a river grabbing bottles out of a river. At least I can do is pick up a, you know,
I think that's it. It's like we're too busy sitting here going, it's not my problem, or it's not, it wasn't me. And it's like, well, as a species, it was.
yes,
It was humans.
mm-hmm.
And as a human, you have a duty to make sure that this planet is livable, workable, breathable, and may continue far beyond our existence. That is our duty as a human being.
Facts.
So if you see that bottle in the street or in the mountain, pick the
Pick
fuck
that
up
shit
and
up.
don't be a petty little dick that just needs to be put away.
Facts.
Like just pick up what inconvenience is it really causing you not to go and put something.
But Chris, I gotta bend over and walk over to the trash can. Come on, man.
Yeah, well, fucking do it. Get it
Just,
fucking done.
just fucking do it. On that note, we'll bring this motherfucker to a close. Chris, my man, great job as always. Tell the people where they can reach out to you, find you, and you know the usual.
Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter. All the links will be in the description of the episode and of the main podcast kind of channel, wherever you get your podcasts.
Which now we're on Amazon.
Yep, we're now on Amazon Music, so that's Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts,
iTunes.
and Apple Podcasts. It'll be in the YouTube description of the VOD, so you can get us absolutely anywhere. It'll be jam packed with. Each episode will have the links to all the different stories and stuff like that.
Yep,
If you want
he's
to
better than
catch
that than I am.
everything, read up yourself, get actual information rather than just a drunken ramble. But yeah, catch us all there. Any questions, any information, any stories that you want to put across to us, reach us out on YouTube, Twitter, anywhere that you can, and
Facts.
get in touch. Let us know.
Yeah, facts. And you guys know me. I'm Dox Ryan. All the descriptions will be. Well, I can't upload the video right now. My computer can't handle the video upload. So the video episode, if the video comes out good, because we're still recording on my janked up ass rig. If the video is good, I'll send it to Chris. It'll be on Chris's YouTube. And then once my rig gets built in the next week or two, thanks to you all who donated and helped out, we'll be back on YouTube doing YouTube videos. We'll also be back streaming full time. And, you know, find me on Twitter. Be like, hey, Dox, your take on policing was stupid, or your take on policing was good, or your take on growing up as a kid was fucked up. So we want to hear your feedback. And as always, like, share, favorite, follow us on Twitter, Twitch, rate and review the podcast. That goes a long way, because the more we can get the podcast grown through word of mouth, the sooner or later we can get this shit monetized, and the sooner or later this is what Chris and I can do. Like, right now we got day jobs that run us ragged. If we get enough of a groundswell, we can do podcasting and streaming as the day job. So we can bring you better content, we can bring you more interesting stories, and more rambles of stupidity. So thank you guys, we appreciate you. And I guess we will see you next week. Say bye, Chris.
Bye.
Bye-bye.